Chapter 3881. Qi Shao, I paid special attention before. Time passes the fastest at the campus bell's side. Shengguan Yonggu, Martial Uncle, why don't you tell us what happened in this world? We're all curious. Maybe the newcomer, Empress Dowager Qin, will understand that this is not a dangerous place. This place is hidden and only she can see it. No one else can. Ziyun, if she wants to say something, she can just use her consciousness to control it. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Margaret, our red packets won't expire. There's a red packet notification below the group. If she wants to receive it next time, she can just click on it. But the item will appear next to her. She has to find a place where no one can find it. The people in the group sent out all the key points so that Empress Dowager Qin could see it. After all, she was a member of the palace. It was normal for her to be vigilant about things that suddenly appeared. She was not an inexperienced person. After Tang Guo told her what happened in this world, Empress Dowager Qin still did not make a move. She did not care too much. When the time was up and she felt it was appropriate, she should appear. According to the comparison of the passage of time, she was most likely still observing. After communicating in the group for a long time, Empress Dowager Qin did not appear. It could be seen that she was a patient person. Tang Guo said goodbye to her friends in the group and withdrew her consciousness. Pay attention to Empress Dowager Qin's movements. Remember to inform me when she appears. Okay, host. Tang Guo calculated the time and found that the current progress was just before Wan Qianling went down the mountain. Soon, she would inadvertently save Nia Yunqing, who was seriously injured, and the two would begin to entangle. During this period, Tang Guo decided to check the martial arts of the Falling Flower Palace disciples. According to the ranking of the martial arts world, her strength as the palace master of the Falling Flower Palace was considered a top master in the entire martial arts world. The ordinary disciples of the Falling Flower Palace were mostly second-rate. As for the protectors and hall masters, there were not many in the Falling Flower Palace. There were only a few of them, and they were considered first-class masters. In general, the Falling Flower Palace had such a high status in the martial arts world that no one dared to provoke it. It was mainly because of her, the palace master of the Falling Flower Palace, who was a top master. A force in the Jianghu only needed one top-notch expert and a few first-rate experts to support a large sect. It was no wonder that after the original owner was seriously injured, the Falling Flower Palace was destroyed by the enemy. A single top-notch expert could sweep away a sect without any top-notch experts. Ruan Qianling's martial arts were not bad. She could be considered a first-class master. The difference between a first-class master and a top master was not small. If he did not encounter any fortuitous encounters during this period, it might take him several decades to reach that level. There were two quick ways for a first-rate expert to become a top-notch expert. First, the martial artist had to be a peerless genius. Second, there had to be a special fortuitous encounter. Actually, Nia Yunqing wasn't a super-talented person, but his luck was especially good. Whatever he lacked, the heavenly Tao would give him. The process was a little tortuous, but the result would be good. Ruan Qianling's talent was not bad, at least better than Nia Yunqing's. Unfortunately, he was a useless person who didn't care about anything once he fell in love with someone and couldn't tell right from wrong. After reading the memories, Tang Guo did not have any hope for Wan Qianling. She liked Nia Yunqing, so she could go ahead and like him. When she was at a disadvantage, she would have to suffer by herself. Chapter 3882. Ruan Qianling's mother, Ruan Feng, did not owe much to the original owner. At most, she took care of Ruan Qianling in the beginning and raised Ruan Qianling for more than 10 years. She had always focused on cultivating Ruan Qianling. First, she had a good relationship with Ruan Feng's senior and junior sisters. In addition, Ruan Qianling was very talented. She planned to cultivate her to be the successor of Falling Flower Palace. To the outside world, Ruan Qianling was the young palace master of Falling Flower Palace. It could be seen that her status was very high. If it were not for this traitor who stole the treasures of Falling Flower Palace and caused the enemies of Falling Flower Palace to find out about the situation and plot against the palace master, Falling Flower Palace would not have been destroyed. Without Ruan Qianling, she could still cultivate other successors. The martial arts world was so big. Wasn't it easy to find a good seedling? Tang Guo looked at the disciples in front of her practicing martial arts and fell into deep thought. The disciples of Falling Flower Palace were talented, but they were much worse than Ruan Qianling. No matter what, Ruan Qianling's parents were martial arts geniuses. Her talent would definitely not be bad. She had not chosen a suitable person in Falling Flower Palace for the time being. Tang Guo was not in a hurry. The story had just begun. She could take it slowly. Dear host, the martial arts manuals you asked me to help you choose have been selected. Okay, let me see. In order to not let Falling Flower Palace suffer losses, she had to improve their martial arts first. She had collected a lot of martial arts manuals. Almost every time she went to a world, she would collect some specialties, especially books. No matter what kind of book it was, she would collect some. Since little Tongzi became smarter, she did not need to do these things herself. Tongzi could scan and store all the contents. If she wanted anything, she could find Tongzi. System, proud. After choosing the suitable martial arts manuals, Tang Guo gathered the important disciples of Falling Flower Palace for a meeting. Palace Master, what happened? The core disciples of Falling Flower Palace saw Tang Guo sitting in her seat so seriously and were a little nervous. Could it be that the enemy forces of Falling Flower Palace came to provoke them again? Did they occupy their territory, hurt their people, and snatch their shops? This was a martial arts world. Snatching territory, snatching shops, and occupying places was a common thing. Especially when two opposing forces were locked in a fierce battle, it was very common for people to die. In any case, it was a life and death grudge. They didn't care about face at all. It would be best to kill one of the other party's people. The Falling Flower Palace was called the Evil Palace by the people of Jianghu. Naturally, their opponents were definitely not good people. Normally, the righteous sects would not provoke the Falling Flower Palace. However, the evil sects would often clash with them. There is something. Palace Lord, is it the soul-snatching sect or the distant Soul Palace who provoked us this time? The left protector, Chun Mei, was an enchanting woman. Everyone in the Falling Flower Palace loved the color red. Even if the dress wasn't entirely red, there were still some red petals on the edge of the dress. Without waiting for Tang Guo to speak, Right Guardian Chiu Ming also spoke. Palace Lord, let me and Chun Mei go over and teach them a lesson. Let's see if they still dare to come over and make a scene. The current Falling Flower Palace was indeed not afraid of any sect. Seeing that the others were about to speak, Tang Guo quickly stopped them. It's not someone who came to provoke us. It's something else. I asked you to come over and discuss it. Palace Lord, what is it? Chun Mei was relieved that it wasn't someone who provoked them. Is it something good? Tang Guo didn't give them a chance to guess. She opened a wooden box in front of her. When I was cleaning the warehouse, I found a pile of martial arts manuals. Chapter 3883. As soon as Tang Guo finished speaking, the disciples of Falling Flower Palace looked at the box of martial arts manuals in a daze, unable to react. Chiu Mei asked tentatively, Palace Master, is this true? Martial arts manuals were not cabbages, how could she take out boxes of them? However, the palace master was not a person who liked to joke, so she should not joke about this. In the face of everyone's speculation, Tangua said, I give you 3 days to memorize the martial arts manuals that are suitable for you. In the future, when you have nothing to do, you can practice on your own. After obtaining these martial arts manuals, don't use them on normal days, just practice in secret. Conserve some of our strength. If any thieves come, we will be able to catch them off guard. Tangua's words made the eyes of the disciples of Falling Flower Palace light up. What a good way to catch the other party off guard, they liked it. After memorizing the manuals, no discussion is allowed. Understand. This subordinate understands. In other words, the secret realm was given to them to practice, but they had to act as if nothing had happened, just like before. On the surface, they would use ordinary martial arts, but when needed, they would use the martial arts manuals given to them by the palace master. Good, this way of hiding their strength would definitely make those thieves doubt their lives. Okay, I have written your names on each manual, you can choose the suitable one to practice. Tangua paused and said, this matter must be hidden from Ling Er. In the face of everyone's doubts, Tangua explained, Ling Er is inexperienced, and now is the time when she is curious about Jianghu, so it is inevitable that she will make friends with some martial artists. She is young and not scheming, so it is better to hide such an important matter from her for now. When the time comes, she will know what she needs to know. Palace Master is thoughtful. Young Palace Master is indeed too young and likes to play in Jianghu. If she meets some swindler and accidentally finds out about Falling Flower Palace's trump card, it will indeed bring danger to our Falling Flower Palace. Everyone in Jianghu knew that Falling Flower Palace had 3 treasures, and now they had more trump cards, so it was good. Tangua looked at the disciples of Falling Flower Palace seriously flipping through the manuals and was satisfied. Those who were gathered by her today were the core members of Falling Flower Palace. In the original plot, in order to protect the Falling Flower Palace, he fought to the end and refused to leave the Falling Flower Palace no matter how much he was threatened. There's one more thing. In the future, if anything strange happens in the Falling Flower Palace, just pretend that you don't know. If anything happens, just report it to me. There's no need to stop it. Chiao, you did not understand, Palace Master, why is that? Take this as a test for Ling Er. She is the young Palace Master. As the young Palace Master, she needs to grow. Without experiencing some things, how can I feel at ease leaving the Falling Flower Palace in her hands? Tangua stated the reason in a serious manner. The Falling Flower Palace disciples present did not doubt her at all. Instead, they thought that it was reasonable. Palace Lord is so thoughtful. Then, in the future, whatever the young Palace Lord does, we will pretend that we don't know and wait for Palace Lord's orders. Chun Mei asked. After hearing Tangua's affirmation, everyone memorized these words and then began to recite the secret martial arts books. It was not difficult for them to recite these books in 3 days. 3 days later, everyone recited the secret martial arts books and left the main hall, returning to their rooms to practice. Tangua observed for several days and found that this group of Falling Flower Palace disciples really did not mention anything about what happened that day. There was not even a word of discussion. Every day, other than practicing, they would practice. Moreover, they would listen to whatever she said. It felt like they had been brainwashed by the head of a pyramid scheme. She was the head of the pyramid scheme. Chapter 3884. After dealing with the Falling Flower Palace, Tangua planned to go to Jianghu. Staying in the palace all day and having nothing to do, she might as well go and watch the fun. Now Jianghu was bustling. Ruan Qianling and Nia Yunqing's background were very melodramatic. Of course, she couldn't go to Jianghu as the master of the Falling Flower Palace. The master of the Falling Flower Palace always covered her face and was very mysterious. She never showed her real face to people. Even Yuan Qianling didn't know what she looked like. She rarely went to Jianghu. In the plot, she went there mostly because of Yuan Qianling. Tang Guo and the disciples of the Falling Flower Palace announced that she was going to practice in seclusion. In fact, she took off her veil and changed into the popular clothes of Jianghu women. Holding a long sword, she went to Jianghu to wander. The place she was going to today was the Drifting Cloud Villa. Something interesting was happening here, all because of Nie Yunxing. Nie Yunxing was the young master of the Drifting Cloud Villa. He was also called Big Brother by the other disciples of the villa. He was the son of the villa master, Nie He. The current situation was that Nie Yunxing had mysteriously disappeared for half a month. The Drifting Cloud Villa had sent countless people to find him, but they couldn't find him. As the father, Nie He couldn't sit still. He invited all the martial artists to help find Nie Yunxing's whereabouts. All the martial artists went to the Drifting Cloud Villa. It wasn't that they were enthusiastic, but that Nie He had offered them a reward. Once they found Nie Yunxing, they could get all the rewards. There were 3 rewards: 10,000 taels of gold, a detoxification pill that could cure hundreds of poisons, and a top-class martial arts manual. Just one of the 3 rewards was enough to attract a lot of people. The martial artists were also short of money. The martial arts world was very dangerous. There were all kinds of poisons that were impossible to guard against. A detoxification pill that could cure hundreds of poisons was something many people dreamed of. This kind of detoxification pill could only be found in the Elixir Valley. Ordinary people couldn't get one even if they knelt outside the Elixir Valley every day. As for a top-class martial arts manual, it was the foundation of the martial arts world. Some people who didn't have orthodox martial arts needed it very much. In order to find his son, Nie He had spent a lot of money. Finding Nie Yunxing and being able to establish a good relationship with the Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa was a major force. Who wouldn't be willing? Tang Guo followed the martial artists into the Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa. The Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor was really big. So many people had come, but it seemed like it could not fit them all. There was a banquet inside. As long as there were new guests, the servants of the Drifting Cloud Manor would immediately add tables, chairs, and refreshments for the guests to rest. When most of the people had arrived, Tang Guo saw a dignified middle-aged man walking out. Beside him was a woman with red eyes who was wiping her tears. Behind the 2 of them, there were also some young people. Everyone, thank you for coming to my Drifting Cloud Manor today. Nie He cupped his hands and said with a pained expression, my son has been missing for many days. I have no other choice but to invite everyone here. I hope that through everyone's strength, we can find my son's whereabouts as soon as possible. Rumor has it that as long as we find young Master Nie, the Manor Lord will give us 10,000 taels of gold, a detoxification pill, and a top-class martial arts manual. Is this true? The people who came were not interested in Nie Yunxing's disappearance, but the rewards. Nie He nodded and said with a serious face, Nie He promises that no matter who finds my son, these 3 things will belong to that person. Then let's discuss when and where young Master Nie went missing. That way it will be easier to find him. Someone suggested. When Nie He was about to nod, an inappropriate voice suddenly sounded, wait, I have a question. The voice came from the door. Everyone turned around and saw a man in black with a sword on his back walk in. When they saw this man, the crowd began to discuss, it's Lu Qijin. That sword maniac is here. It can't be what I think it is, right? Lu Qijin. Tang Guo also looked over and saw the man with the sword on his back walk in. The man's face was cold and all of his attention was on Nie He. It was as if everyone else was just a background. Chapter 3885. Yes, in the eyes of a sword maniac, other than the person who was competing with him, he couldn't see anyone else. So it's young Master Lu Qijin. Do you also want to help find my son? Nya, he asked. Lu Qijin looked up and nodded, yes, but I don't want the rewards. What does young Master Lu want? Lu Qijin's voice was flat as he said calmly, when we find him, you will compete with me. Everyone's mouth twitched. They knew it would be like this. Lu Qijin knew a peerless sword technique. He was a sword maniac who was addicted to sword techniques. He was interested in anyone's sword technique. With his martial arts, it was easy for him to steal someone else's sword technique. However, he disdained to do that and would directly invite the other party to compete. Through competing with the opponent, he could comprehend the essence of the sword technique. Normal people weren't willing to compete with him. Whether it was internal strength or sword technique, no one was Lu Qijin's opponent. If a reputable sect leader of a large sect agreed to such a thing and lost, it would be a bit shameful and a loss of prestige. Lu Qijin wouldn't force people. He invited people to compete, but he wouldn't force them. Thus, in the eyes of the people of Jianghu, he was a swordsman worthy of respect and not an unreasonable person. However, this person only had the sword in his eyes. Many people who wanted to rope him in were rejected. No one knew who his master was. They only knew that this was a person who didn't care about anything other than competing. Tang Guo recalled the plot. Lu Qijin was occasionally mentioned. This was a person who walked the Jianghu but didn't mingle with the people of Jianghu. He only competed and studied the sword his entire life. He didn't participate in any benefits or fights between factions. He had a strong presence and wasn't feared by others. Those who provoked Lu Qijin for no reason wouldn't have a good ending. He also had a special characteristic. He didn't kill with one strike. Instead, he used 7 different sword techniques, as if to prove that he was Lu Qijin. Perhaps because Tang Guo's gaze was too serious, it attracted Lu Qijin's attention. He glanced at Tang Guo. His eyes were still as calm as ever. However, he looked at Tang Guo for a long time. He looked away twice and then back twice. No one else noticed this detail. Their attention was on Nie He. They were looking forward to the competition between Nie He and Lu Qijin. They also wanted to know whether the world's #1 villa's master, Nie He, or Lu Qijin was better. As long as young Master Lu can find my son, I agree to have a sword duel with you. Perhaps only Lu Qijin would think of having the world's #1 villa master compete in swords. This result was what everyone was looking forward to. Nie He was also taking some risks by agreeing to this. If he won, the villa's reputation would be better. If he lost, it wouldn't be a bad thing. However, it would affect the villa's reputation to a certain extent. Both Lu Qijin and Nie He were famous figures in Jianghu. If Nie He lost in the sword competition, when people mentioned him in the future, they would inevitably say that he was the one who lost in the competition with Lu Qijin. No one knew why, but it still didn't sound good. Nie He's behavior made people feel that he valued Nie Yunxing. Would you like to stay for a banquet? You've traveled a long way to the villa. Why don't you take a rest and have some tea before you leave? Lu Qijin didn't refuse. He was indeed a little hungry. The villa's servants quickly led him to an open space. They quickly moved a table and chairs and placed tea and snacks. Chapter 3886. While Lu Qijin was eating, he felt that someone was looking at him. He looked to the side and found that the person looking at him was Tang Guo. He stared at Tang Guo for a long time. Seeing that she didn't say anything and didn't show any expression, he continued to eat, intending to ignore this strange gaze. System, don't regret it. Dear host, is this sword fanatic your cutie? Not yet. Tangua said. System, sooner or later. After all, how could someone who is so ruthless to himself let go of this opportunity? Don't look at how crazy he is with his sword right now. Sooner or later, his wife will be more important than his sword. It's hard to say about other people, but this guy was willing to throw away his face for his wife. What was a sword to him? Lu Qijin didn't look at Tangua, but Tangua glanced at him from time to time. Even if Lu Qijin deliberately ignored her gaze, he still couldn't help but notice that she was seriously sizing him up. During the banquet, the people of Jianghu were discussing what had happened recently. It was very lively. Most of the discussions revolved around Nia Yunqing's disappearance. During this time, he had already told everyone about the details of Nia Yunqing's disappearance. The people of Jianghu were all discussing these details. The disciples of the manor who went out with Nia Yunqing were all killed. Only Nia Yunqing's whereabouts were still unknown. If he was alive, they couldn't find him. If he was dead, they couldn't find his corpse either. Everyone felt that Nia Yunqing was the leader of Jianghu's younger generation. Although his martial arts weren't very good, he was still much better than the ordinary disciples of the manor. When he encountered danger, he might have escaped. But this idea was quickly overturned. Since Nia Yunqing escaped, why didn't he escape to Drifting Cloud Manor? It had already been half a month. How could he escape to Drifting Cloud Manor? Therefore, most people thought that Nia Yunqing had been taken away by someone. In fact, in their hearts, they guessed that Nia Yunqing was already dead. After all, the people who were with him were all killed. Although Nia Yunqing's martial arts were good, he wasn't a top master. He wasn't even a first-class master. The possibility of him being killed was very high. That was what they thought, but they didn't dare to say it out loud. They didn't want to upset Nia He. If they found the corpse, it wouldn't be good if he didn't reward them. Nia He promised that as long as he found the person, he would give the 3 rewards. He didn't say whether the person was dead or alive. The banquet gradually came to an end, and the people of Jianghu from all sides gradually bid farewell to each other. Tangua did not want to stay any longer. She had to follow the plot and join in the fun. She had already arranged everything that needed to be arranged. As for the rest, she would just have to watch the show. Her appearance was very ordinary in the Jianghu. She wore a simple dress and held a simple longsword. She only used a wooden hairpin to hold her hair up. Even so, she was still a beauty. The people next to her couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. Seeing her unfamiliar face, they tried to recall her identity, but couldn't find out who she was. They thought that she was an unknown person in the Jianghu. Some of the more boorish people in the Jianghu looked at her openly, as if they were afraid that others didn't know what they were thinking. Tangua didn't pay attention to those explicit looks. As long as they didn't make a move, she wouldn't make a move. If they dared to make a move, there were few people in the Jianghu who would be lenient. If they dared to come, they would have to eat her sword first. After walking out of the manor, Tangua found that several big men had been following her. Chapter 3887. Finally, when they passed through a forest, those big men stopped in front of Tangua with strange smiles. There were good and bad people among these Jianghu people. There were decent people and people who cared about face. There were also quite a number of small fries. People like these big men in front of her were common in Jianghu. It was common for them to take liberties with Jianghu newbies and bully women who were weak in Jianghu and didn't belong to any sect. We have been in Jianghu for many years and have seen countless people. Why do I find you unfamiliar? May I know who your master is and which sect you are from? The big man pretended to be polite, which was indeed a bit funny. If you want to bully someone, you have to ask about their background. If they have a background, they can't provoke them. If they don't have a reputation, they won't bring trouble to themselves. Even if they kill them, it will be a small matter. Tang Guo knew what they were thinking and said, I don't belong to any sect. Don't belong to any sect. Where are you going, miss? We saw you go to Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa. Are you going to find young Master Nye? To be honest, Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa has invested a lot this time. If you can find young Master Nye, of course it will be good. The big man said again. Another person said, but we think you are new to Jianghu. It is very dangerous. It is inconvenient to do anything alone. How about you go with us? They planned to trick Tang Guo into going on the road first. When the time was right, they would drug her and avoid the trouble of fighting with swords. If the other party had a strong reaction and had a fierce temper, it would not be fun if she died. No need. I am used to being alone. I see. Seeing that Tang Guo refused, the leading big man didn't insist. Well, we won't force you. Tang Guo nodded to them and followed Lu Qijin. Her pace was not fast, mainly because Lu Qijin didn't look like he was in a hurry. Of course, he also knew that the strange woman from before seemed to be following him. Behind Tang Guo, those big men were still following. It wasn't their style to give up like this. There would always be a chance to attack if they followed. About an hour later, Tang Guo followed Lu Qijin into the city and stayed in Lu Qijin's inn. During this time, Lu Qijin didn't turn back to ask Tang Guo. Tang Guo also didn't look for him. They had a tacit understanding. Great host, are you going to keep following him? I can watch the show if I follow him. Of course. Of course. If a certain someone knew the truth, he would probably faint from crying. After a while, the waiter brought Tang Guo food and wine. Them. Great host, teach them a lesson later. Tang Guo got rid of the food, blew out the candles, and lay on the bed. After a while, she heard movement from the window. Then, a few black figures flipped in. Big brother, you slept so soundly. This medicine is really good. Ha ha ha, of course it's good. This medicine is not so easy to get. The more you use, the less you have. Chapter 3888. If this woman wasn't so beautiful, I wouldn't be willing to use such a heavy drug. Big brother, second brother, let's do something first. After so many years in the Jianghu, this is the first time I've seen someone so beautiful. She's even more beautiful than the #1 beauty in the Jianghu, Luo Lisin. The main thing is that we can't afford to provoke Luo Lisin. She's beautiful, but her methods aren't ordinary either. Even if we work together, we won't be a match for her. But this is different. The person who spoke let out a wretched laugh. One look and you can tell that she's a Jianghu newbie. She's not on guard at all when she's outside. Even if we don't succeed today, someone else will do it first. Alright, third brother, stop talking nonsense. Let's do it. The night is long, we can't waste it. The three men walked around the bed. Just as their claws were about to reach for Tang Guo's body, a white light flashed in front of them, followed by a scream. Tang Guo stood up with her sword. Before the three men could react, the long sword in her hand flashed with countless rays of light, accompanied by the screams of the three men. It was very special in the dark night. The three brothers could only scream. They didn't even have the chance to escape, let alone make a move. Even though there were many Jianghu people staying in the inn, no one came to check. In the Jianghu disputes, it was other people's business if they fought. The first thing was to not meddle in other people's business. Tang Guo didn't do anything. She chopped off the hand of the one who reached for the claws and cut off the tendons of the rest of their hands and feet, crippling their martial arts. After doing all this, she lit a candle. She used the light to shine on the 3 men who were kneeling on the ground miserably and constantly kowtowing. She lightly said, "Scram." When the 3 brothers heard this, they endured the pain and rushed out. In the blink of an eye, the waiter came to the door. Seeing that the door was ajar, he poked his head in to take a look. He saw that the room was in a mess and there was blood all over the floor. He saw how the 3 Jiang brothers rushed out earlier. He silently wiped the sweat off his forehead. These 3 brothers were too daring. After being in the Jianghu for so many years, how could they not know that there were 3 types of people in the Jianghu that couldn't be provoked? Solitary people, old people, women, and children. At the end of the day, the 3 brothers had taken advantage of him and thought that he was easy to provoke. The waiter had seen life and death situations before. He calmed down and asked Tanguo with a smile, "Heroine, the room is dirty. Would you like to change to a clean room? By the way, how should I address you, heroine?" His surname is Tang. Tanguo was sure that she wouldn't live in this room, so she asked, "Where does Lu Qijin live?" Hearing Tanguo mention Lu Qijin, the waiter's face twitched. He then heard Tanguo say, "Are there any empty rooms around his room? If there is, arrange it for me." "Yes, there is. Lu Qijin is staying in Emperor's room 1. I'll arrange for Heroine Tang to stay in Emperor's room 2, which is directly opposite." "Okay." Tanguo threw a silver ingot to the waiter. The waiter instantly smiled and hurriedly took her away. She didn't expect that when she arrived at the room, Lu Qijin was standing at the door and staring at her with his arms crossed. The 2 of them looked at each other briefly. This time, it was Lu Qijin who spoke first. "Your swordsmanship is not bad. Do you want to compete? You peeked at me." Tanguo narrowed her eyes and asked, "Do you want to do something to me?" The waiter was speechless. Did Lu Qijin know how to look at a girl? This guy probably couldn't differentiate between men and women. He only had eyes for swords. How could he look at a girl? Lu Qijin didn't feel embarrassed at all. He said calmly, "I've checked the Jiang brothers' wounds. Your swordsmanship is very unique." Chapter 3889. A Sword Duel. Lu Qijin stared at Tanguo seriously. No, he was staring at the sword in her hand. It still had the smell of blood on it. From the wounds of the Jiang brothers, he could tell that her sword skills were very exquisite. He could also tell that her martial arts skills were very strong. She was not a newbie in the Jianghu like others thought. She was a top-notch expert. Lu Qijin could not tell who was stronger between them. He was not interested in Tanguo's identity. He just wanted to have a sword duel with her. "Dear host, his eyes are burning." "I knew it. Now that he has seen you, he will definitely treat you differently," the system said in a mocking tone. Tanguo poured cold water on the system. "At this moment, I am very clear that he is not looking at me. He is very interested in my sword skills." The system observed carefully and found that Lu Qijin's eyes were not filled with love or admiration, but with interest and excitement. It instantly felt bored. Fine, he would spend the rest of his life with his sword. Tanguo shook her head. "No. How can we have a duel?" Lu Qijin did not give up. He was so excited to meet an unfathomable opponent that the sword in his hand was about to jump out. He really wanted to drag her out for a fight. He had not felt this way for many years. In the past few years, he had sparred with many people in the Jianghu. There were nameless people and top-notch experts. But in terms of understanding sword skills, he had always felt that it was enough. He had thought that she had been staring at him because she was interested in his sword skills. Especially after checking the wounds of the Jiang brothers, he was even more certain that she wanted to have a sword duel with him. But he did not expect her to reject him. This made Lu Qijin very disappointed. Tang Guo saw his disappointed expression and her lips unconsciously curled into a smile. Seeing this, Lu Qijin continued to ask, "I want to have a sword duel with you." The waiter was speechless. He was sandwiched between two top-notch experts. He was under a lot of pressure. It was not easy being a waiter these days. "I don't want to compete with swords." Tang Guo refused again. Lu Qijin did not give up. "What do you want before you agree to compete with me? Name your conditions." "I don't want to compete with swords for the time being. For now." Lu Qijin grasped the key words, and his eyes became somewhat fervent. "Then when do you want to have a sword duel?" "I don't know." "Then when you want to compete with me, remember to compete with me first." Lu Qijin was particularly serious when he said this. "I'm very free, anytime." This time, Tang Guo finally nodded. "All right, I'll look for you when I feel like sparring." Lu Qijin finally smiled. He cupped his hands and said, "I am Lu Qijin. May I know your name, miss?" "Done. Miss Tang, let's make a deal. If you want to spar, you have to find me." "Okay," Tang Guo replied. "When the time comes, you can name your conditions. As long as it doesn't go against my, Lu Qijin's, Jianghu rules, I'll definitely do it." The waiter looked back and forth between the Heavenly Room 1 and Heavenly Room 2 in confusion as he scratched his head. So, these two big shots already knew each other and agreed to have a sword duel in the future. Speaking of which, who was this Miss Tang? She was actually recognized by Lu Qijin. No matter what her background was, she was definitely not someone whom they could provoke. The next day, the news that Tang Guo had crippled the three Jiang brothers spread throughout the Jianghu. In just one day, Tang Guo could be considered a little famous in the Jianghu. "Dear host, Lu Qijin actually wants to follow you." The next day, when Tang Guo went out, Lu Qijin followed her. "Let me ask." On the way, Tang Guo and Lu Qijin rode side by side on horseback. She asked, "Why are you following me?" "It's convenient for a sword duel." Lu Qijin said very seriously, "When you want to, you can do it anytime." System, sorry, he thought of something else. "It's a bit dirty. I'll slip away and disturb you." Everyone in the Jianghu was looking for Nie Yunxing, but they didn't know that Nie Yunxing was injured and fell off a cliff. Under the care of Ruan Qianling, his injuries were almost healed. After his injuries were healed, Nie Yunxing planned to go to Floating Clouds Mountain Villa. Ruan Qianling was a bit worried about his safety, so she accompanied him. Chapter 3890. Nie Yunxing always felt that there was something strange about the person who wanted to kill him. He led the disciples of the villa out before because there was a very important thing that he needed to escort, which was commonly known as escort in Jianghu. The name of Drifting Cloud Villa was well known in Jianghu. With the name of Drifting Cloud Villa, no one dared to rob the escort. But this time, the opponent not only came, but also directly killed the disciples of Drifting Cloud Villa. If it weren't for his martial arts, he might have died in the hands of the opponent. What he felt strange was that under normal circumstances, people in Jianghu would directly hurt and rob the escort. They would not continue to fight, let alone kill. Of course, robbing the escort was mainly to rob the escort. But the person who came to rob the escort last time didn't seem to want to rob the escort, but to directly kill them. Nie Yunxing was afraid that the person would kill him again if he knew that he was not dead, so he prepared to go back to Drifting Cloud Villa in disguise. After Ruan Qianling understood his idea, she also helped him to disguise himself. This was why no one could discover Nie Yunqing's identity in Jianghu now. Tang Guo knew the plot. The reason why Nie Yunqing was exposed was that on the way, he met his junior sister apprentice Su Xinyue and had a conflict with others. Seeing his junior sister apprentice being bullied, how could Nie Yunqing stand by and do nothing? Of course, he would go forward to support her. Nie Yunqing planned to secretly return to the villa, and at the same time investigate on the way whether someone was targeting Drifting Cloud Villa, so he didn't reveal his identity. Unexpectedly, Lu Qijin saw through the swordsmanship he used. In the end, Lu Qijin found Nie Yunqing's real body and took him back to Drifting Cloud Villa. In front of Lu Qijin, Yuan Qianling was no match for him. Lu Qijin only wanted to compete with swordsmanship. Of course, he would not hurt Nie Yunqing. Yuan Qianling was worried, so she followed him to Drifting Cloud Villa. Lu Qijin. Tang Guo called out to Lu Qijin, and Lu Qijin leaped to her side. There was not much expression on his face, but his eyes were very eager. Miss Tang, do you want to have a sword duel? Lu Qijin asked directly. He believed that other than this reason, there was nothing else that Tang Guo would want to do. The sword in his hand was trembling, and he had the urge to unsheath it immediately. No. Tang Guo denied, I don't want to compete with you for the time being. I remember that you wanted to compete with Nie He. You've been following me all day. If you don't find Nie Yunqing, how can you compete with Nie He? Lu Qijin fell into deep thought. He even cast a glance at Tang Guo, as if he was weighing between Nie He and Tang Guo, who could compete with him first. Miss Tang seems to be looking for Nie Yunqing as well. Tang Guo nodded, yes. Then Miss Tang will go with me. Let's look for him together, Lu Qijin said. Tang Guo frowned slightly, as if she was thinking, if that person is found, who will it belong to? It's mine. Lu Qijin answered without thinking. Tang Guo was not in a hurry. She waited for him to continue. Sure enough, he said, 10,000 taels of gold, antidote pills, and a sword. I can give you these 3 things. As the first swordsman in Jianghu, he could compete with others every day. He was definitely not a simple person. But Lu Qijin said it so easily, which surprised Tang Guo. In the plot, there was no mention of Lu Qijin's background. Even if he had always existed in Jianghu, he did not have much involvement with the male and female protagonists. Miss Tang, if you think it's too little, I can give you double. Chapter 3891. Tang Guo agreed to Lu Qijin's request. Originally, she had planned to follow Lu Qijin to join in the fun. Now that she could join in the fun and get something, why not? System, host, do you lack that? Even the Falling Flower Palace's treasury has a lot of things, right? Even the 3 treasures that people coveted were much more valuable than the treasures from the Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor. Men mislead people. In less than 2 days, there were rumors in Jianghu that Lu Qijin and Miss Tang, the one who crippled the 3 Jiang brothers, were together. It was said that the 2 were together every day, staying at the same inn, eating at the same table, and often communicating with each other. They didn't know Tang Guo, but they were very familiar with Lu Qijin. In their impression, Lu Qijin only had eyes for swords. Even the number 1 beauty of Jianghu, Luo Lisan, couldn't move Lu Qijin's heart. At that time, the number 1 beauty, Luo Lisan, wanted to befriend Lu Qijin, but he didn't understand her feelings at all. Tang Guo also heard these rumors and she was resting and drinking tea. She frequently looked at Lu Qijin, and Lu Qijin would ask, does Miss Tang want to compete with swords? System, it's strange these days, there are actually people who want to compete with each other. Tang Guo shook her head and couldn't help but laugh, they all say that you're the head of a willow tree. That's not important, Lu Qijin said, competing with swords is a serious matter. Tanggua continued to gossip. Do you know the number one beauty of Jianghu, Luo Lisin? Her martial arts are good, but her swordsmanship is terrible. She's good at satin and concealed weapons. Lu Qijin directly mentioned Luo Lisin's strengths. As for Luo Lisin's most eye-catching beauty, it wasn't a strong point for him, so it should be said that he didn't pay attention to it. Have you competed with her before? Tanggua asked again. Lu Qijin shook his head. Her swordsmanship isn't worth comparing. It's not exquisite at all. It has form but no spirit. Did she once clamor to compete with you in swordsmanship, saying that if you lost, you had to promise her one thing? This was mentioned in the plot. The number one beauty of the Jianghu, Luo Lisin, had her eyes on Lu Qijin. Lu Qijin was a straight man, and a straight man who only had eyes for swords. Of course, he would run into obstacles everywhere he went. In order to get Lu Qijin's attention, Luo Lisin even studied swordsmanship. Luo Lisin's talent in martial arts was not bad, but she was not good at swordsmanship. Swordsmanship had to be practiced from a young age. Unless one was a genius in swordsmanship, they would have to put in a lot of hard work and time to hone their skills. Her swordsmanship was nothing compared to Lu Qijin's, so he naturally wouldn't compare with her. Luo Lisin wanted to rely on her swordsmanship to make Lu Qijin look at her in a different light. She was not willing to give up, so she did many things to attract Lu Qijin's attention. However, he was really an unromantic straight man. Until Nia Yunqing's fate changed, from an ordinary second-generation martial artist to an influential figure in the Jianghu, Luo Lisin suddenly felt that Nia Yunqing was the true hero of the Jianghu in her heart, so she forgot about Lu Qijin. Did you? Tanggua asked. Lu Qijin nodded. Yes, I did. Then why don't you compete with her? I think people in the Jianghu don't want to compete with you. Lu Qijin didn't feel that there was any trap in this question, so he repeated his previous answer, I don't want to compete with her. If her swordsmanship is exquisite and worth competing with you, then her condition is that if she wins, you have to promise her one thing, and even marry her. Are you willing to compete with her? System, dear host, do you really want to do this? She's just a blockhead who only has eyes for swords. It's not good to dig a hole like this, right? Chapter 3892. He could already feel that Lu Qijin was about to walk into the hole that his host had dug for him, the kind that he wouldn't be able to climb out of. Saying such words to a sword maniac, wasn't it the same as pushing him into the fire pit? Lu Qijin pondered for a moment before saying, let's do it. System, it's over, it's over. You brat, you're done for. Alright, you can live alone for the rest of your life without a wife. Aren't you afraid that you'll really lose? Tanggua didn't feel uncomfortable. She was just asking for fun. Saying such words to a sword maniac was full of traps. Right now, she didn't have any relationship with Lu Qijin, so it was normal for her to agree. Therefore, her little Tongzi was a bit worried. Moreover, whether or not this would work would depend on how things developed. Luo Lisin can be considered a first-rate expert in Jianghu, and I. When Lu Qijin said this, there was a bit of pride in his expression, I'm a first-rate expert. I've been one since I was 15 years old. Many years have passed since then. System. She can't win. Lu Qijin said with certainty, she's destined to not win. Even if she agrees, it won't change the result. System. What if she's stronger than you? Lu Qijin, impossible. She's improving. I'm improving at 10 times the speed. She can't be stronger than me. If Luo Lisin is stronger than me one day, I'll destroy the sword in my hand and never hold a sword again. Lu Qijin's talent in swordsmanship was top-notch, so he said such words. If he was surpassed by a mere Luo Lisin, this sword really wouldn't be suitable for him. System, this is the legendary desire to live under restriction. He was wondering where this guy's desire to live went. It turned out that it was waiting for him here. That's right, how could a sword maniac not compete? Wouldn't that violate his character setting? Lu Qijin, if one day you find someone who can defeat you in swordsmanship, will you continue to find others to compete with? The storyline never mentioned whether Lu Qijin had been defeated when he found an opponent. Tanguo asked this purely out of curiosity. She wanted to take advantage of the fact that they weren't familiar with each other to satisfy her curiosity. Once they were familiar with each other, this guy's character setting would be changed. System, so bad. No. So, you compete with others because you're too strong and you want to find someone to defeat you. Why not change it to Lu Qiu Bai? My name was given to me by my parents. Lu Qijin will never change his name. Seeing his serious expression to her to compete to win, Tang Qiu to be sure. To compete to win to win to win. I'll study my sword techniques first. After defeating the person who defeated me, I'll find someone else to spar with. Lu Qijin gave his answer. Tang Guo was curious again. If you can't defeat your opponent, you won't be able to compete with others and can only continue to study. System, why do I feel like something's not right? Are you trying to dig a hole for me? Why did he feel that there were pitfalls everywhere? Lu Qijin's eyes lit up. If I can't defeat anyone for the rest of my life, I only need one opponent. Tang Guo shook her head and smiled. This strange smile made the system feel that something was wrong. It didn't say anything. It wasn't easy to guess a woman's thoughts, and it wasn't easy to guess its host's thoughts either. As a woman, it was better not to guess. Tang Guo followed Lu Qijin and soon arrived at the location in the storyline. There were many people here, and it seemed that a conflict had broken out. Chapter 3893. Tang Guo and Lu Qijin walked into the crowd. Sure enough, they saw a woman fighting fiercely with someone. This beautiful green-clothed woman was none other than Su Xinyue, whom they had met at the Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa that day. The Drifting Cloud Villa was the #1 villa in Jianghu. Ordinary people and decent people would give them some face. The person fighting with Su Xinyue was from the Soul Snatcher sect. The Soul Snatcher sect was considered an evil sect in Jianghu. They didn't care about face or morality. The reason for the conflict was that the Soul Snatcher sect had always been overbearing. They felt that the waiter was too slow to serve the dishes and looked down on him, so they made things difficult for him. Su Xinyue had a chivalrous spirit. She couldn't stand it, so she spoke up for the waiter. Her words were very rude, which angered the Soul Snatcher sect. The two sides fought from the restaurant to the street. The tables and chairs in the restaurant were also destroyed. The timid guests quickly left. The shopkeeper stood at the door with a bitter face. He was waiting for the two sides to finish and see who would compensate him for the loss. He couldn't do anything if the two sides didn't compensate. In fact, he blamed Su Xinyue in his heart. Originally, he only needed to pay for the dishes on the Soul Snatcher sect's table. Now, he didn't know how much he would lose. The Soul Snatcher sect couldn't compensate him. Su Xinyue was gradually at a disadvantage. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to get the compensation. She could only admit that she was unlucky today. Tang Guo stood in the crowd and watched. Su Xinyue was beaten until she kept retreating. She was about to lose. No one intervened. Unless it was a big sect, who would dare to provoke the Soul Snatcher sect? The Soul Snatcher sect dared to provoke the Falling Flower Palace and the Drifting Cloud Villa. Weren't they courting death by provoking them? Drifting Cloud Villa, what's so great about it? Ha ha ha, stupid girl. You're not good enough. If you have the ability, ask Nyahi to come here personally. The Soul Snatcher sect's leader slapped Su Xinyue's shoulder with his internal force. Su Xinyue was immediately hit and blood spurted out of her mouth. Tang Guo felt something strange in the distance. She thought to herself. Just as Su Xinyue was about to hit the ground, a person suddenly flew out from the distance and caught the injured Su Xinyue. Who are you? How dare you meddle in the business of my soul-seizing sect? The leader of the soul-snatching sect's men had a venomous look on his face as he said, "Tell me your name and hand over that damned girl. This girl's mouth stinks. I'm going to teach her a lesson today and cut off her tongue. Only then will she learn not to spout nonsense." The Soul Snatcher sect was not afraid of becoming enemies with any sect, even if it was the Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor. After all, the hatred between them was not a little bit, and no one could do anything to the other. The person who caught Su Xinyue was Nie Yunxing, who had pretended to be defeated. When Ruan Qianling came to his side, he handed Su Xinyue over to Ruan Qianling to take care of. Tang Guo was standing in the crowd, so Ruan Qianling didn't recognize her. The original owner had always been wearing a veil, so it was normal for her not to be recognized in the Falling Flower Palace. Ruan Qianling would never have thought that Tang Guo would disguise herself and come to Jianghu to play. When Ruan Qianling saw Su Xinyue, she had a subtle feeling in her heart and did not like her very much. This was because Nie Yunxing had asked her for help, so she reluctantly agreed. Nie Yunxing knew that it was useless to reason with the people of the Soul Snatcher sect. He was very direct and went up to fight with them. The leader of the Soul Snatcher sect shouted, "Good. Since you like to meddle in other people's business, I don't care who you are. I won't let you go back." After saying that, he led the people of the Soul Snatcher sect to launch a fierce attack on Nie Yunxing. Chapter 3894. At this time, Nie Yunxing was not very strong. These people's martial arts were not very strong, but they were not weak either. It was not difficult for them to deal with Nie Yunxing. Therefore, it was not easy for Nie Yunxing to deal with them. There was even a possibility of defeat. The two sides fought for a while. Seeing that Nie Yunxing was about to be defeated, Ruan Qianling could not sit still. She tiptoed and flew over. She used the red silk to slap away the knife that was about to attack Nie Yunxing's heart. "You'd better go see her yourself. Leave these people to me. People from the Soul Snatcher sect. I like to bully people from the Soul Snatcher sect the most." Ruan Qianling was dressed very ostentatiously in a red dress. The people of the Falling Flower Palace were good at swords. Ruan Qianling was also good at swords, but she usually did not use swords. She liked to use red silk because she felt that it was more beautiful to fight like this. Also, because Luo Lisan, who was known as the #1 beauty in Jianghu, used moon-white silk, she felt that the two of them were a little repetitive. So, she put a luminous pearl on the end of the red silk to show that she was different from Luo Lisan. Needless to say, Ruan Qianling was indeed very beautiful when she fought, especially with the small bell on her ankle. Every step she took, the crisp sound was exceptionally pleasing to the ear, like music. Ruan Qianling was very talented. Whether it was using swords or using red silk as a weapon, they were all very smooth. It was more than enough to deal with a few people from the Soul Snatcher sect. In a short while, the people from the Soul Snatcher sect were beaten by Ruan Qianling to the point that they could not fight back. Seeing that they could not win, they prepared to escape. "Want to escape? Have you asked me, Ruan Qianling?" Ruan Qianling put the luminous pearl on the red silk in front of them. She jumped over and stopped in front of them. "Weren't you arrogant just now? If you want to leave, then leave something behind. Didn't you want her tongue just now? Guan Qianling pointed at Su Xinyue and snorted. I don't want much. You can leave after cutting off your tongue. In fact, many people in the crowd had already recognized Guan Qianling. Her dress was as red as fire, and she used red silk and luminous pearls as weapons. It was too conspicuous. When they heard that Guan Qianling wanted to seize the tongue of the soul sect, they felt a chill in their hearts. This was indeed the style of the demonish Qianling. Evidently, he had forgotten that the people from the soul-seizing sect had tried to cut off Su Xinyue's tongue. Guan Qianling, don't think that we won't dare to do anything to you just because you're from the Falling Flower Palace. Don't go too far. Oh, what are you going to do to me? Weren't you all defeated by me? You've lost, do you understand? You guys wanted that lady's tongue earlier, so I want your tongues. It doesn't seem too much, right? Guan Qianling mocked, don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and cut it. If you don't dare to cut it, I'll cut it for you. I love cutting off tongues, especially the tongues of your soul-snatching sect. Guan Qianling, you. Hurry up and cut it. This lady doesn't have that much time to waste on you little rascals. Forget it, seeing that you don't dare to cut it, this lady will cut it for you. Nia Yunxing wanted to stop her, but Guan Qianling pulled out her sword and cut out the tongues of the people in front of her. After a few screams, the people from the soul-snatching sect could only lie on the ground and roll. They covered their mouths in pain and could no longer speak. Qianling, you. Nia Yunxing walked over with a reproachful expression. How can you do this? Nia Yunxing knew that Guan Qianling was the demoness of the Falling Flower Palace. It was rumored that she was perverse and cruel. He thought that it was just a rumor. They got along well these days and didn't think that she was really bad. Nia Yunxing couldn't bear to see what Guan Qianling was doing. He couldn't accept it. Guan Qianling was unhappy. Hey, they threatened to cut off her tongue just now. Is it wrong for me to cut theirs? Chapter 3895. If we hadn't come in time, wouldn't this girl's tongue have been cut off by them? What a pedantic fool. Those people's tongues had been cut off by Guan Qianling's sword. It was meaningless to say anything more. Nia Yunxing comforted himself that the Soul Snatcher sect was not a good person. Only then did he get over it. But he still said to Guan Qianling, don't do this again. Just teach them a lesson. He could not accept cutting off people's tongues. I'm afraid that the Soul Snatcher sect will not let it go. They will make trouble for you in the future. Be careful. Nia Yunxing said again. He was very afraid of the Soul Snatcher sect, which liked to play tricks and secretly set people up. Our Falling Flower Palace and them are irreconcilable. It's just old and new hatred. It's me who cut off their tongues, not you. What are you afraid of? You are still. Guan Qianling remembered that Nia Yunxing wanted to hide his identity, so she did not continue. According to the thoughts of the pedantic people in Jianghu, once Nia Yunxing's identity was exposed and they knew that he was with her, the demoness of the Falling Flower Palace, they could drown him with just a little spit. The current situation made her very unhappy, and she was in a bad mood. When she saw Su Xinyue standing next to Nia Yunxing, she was angry and walked over to push Su Xinyue away. Nia Yunxing did not intend to recognize Su Xinyue. Su Xinyue wanted to continue looking for Nia Yunxing's whereabouts. After thanking the two, she left. Nia Yunxing and Guan Qianling continued on their way. When they passed through a forest, they had to stop because their way was blocked. It was a man and a woman who stopped them. Lu Qijian was very famous. Most people in Jianghu knew him. Nia Yunxing and Guan Qianling both recognized him. Do you want to compete with swords? Ruan Qianling asked subconsciously. Lu Qijin stopped them for no reason. They really could not find any reason other than competing with swords. Nia Yinqing also asked, Young Master Lu, do you really want to compete with swords? No. Lu Qijin shook his head. Lu Qijin had indeed thought of finding someone from the Falling Flower Palace to spar, but this person would not be Ruan Qianling. With Ruan Qianling's kung fu, no matter what swordsmanship she used, it would be full of flaws in front of him. Competing with her in swordsmanship was simply a waste of a spot. In his heart, he thought that if he wanted to compete, he should find the head of the Falling Flower Palace, the palace master of the Falling Flower Palace. However, the Falling Flower Palace did not welcome men, so he could not barge in without permission. The palace master also did not come down from the mountain, so he could not find an opportunity. In Tang Guo's memories, the only interaction between Lu Qijin and the Falling Flower Palace was when he challenged the original owner of the body to a sword duel. Unfortunately, every time the original owner went down the mountain, it was to persuade Ruan Qianling. She didn't want to pay attention to Lu Qijin, the sword maniac. She had no interest in a duel of swords. Lu Qijin wasn't the type to force people. If they weren't willing, then so be it. Lu Qijin would never have thought that the person standing beside him was the true body of the Falling Flowers Palace master. Then why did young Master Lu stop us? Under normal circumstances, few people in Jianghu would be called young master. Most people would be called brother, sect master, or senior. There were only a few people who could be called young master. They were all famous. Lu Qijin was young. He was a little older than Nia Yunqing. In terms of age, he was only one generation older. The other party was a top master. It was disrespectful to call him Brother Lu. It was normal to call him senior, but it was a little old. Over time, people in Jianghu called Lu Qijin Young Master Lu. Some also called him Young Master Seven Swords. Chapter 3896. It was pleasant to hear, easy to remember, and respectful enough. I'm here for you. Lu Qijin said bluntly, Nia Yunqing, come with me to the Flowing Cloud Villa. Lu Qijin directly pointed out Nia Yunqing's identity, which surprised the other party. Ruan Qianling was even more surprised. She thought that few people could see through her disguise, but she was seen through by Lu Qijin as soon as she came out, which made her feel a little uncomfortable. How did you know that he was Nia Yunqing? Ruan Qianling asked impulsively. Lu Qijin said, I guessed it, and now I'm sure. Ruan Qianling was so angry that her face turned red. So, he was lying to them. As a result, the two of them really thought that Lu Qijin had seen through them, so they confessed without being pressed. Tang Guo pursed her lips and smiled. In the end, the two of them were Jianghu newbies who admitted it after a little bit of embarrassment. If a Jianghu newbie was guessed like this, even if he was flustered, his eyes would be as calm as an ancient well, without any reaction. Nia Yunqing's face was a little ugly, and he refused Lu Qijin, Child Lu, I have my own plans. When it's time to go to the Flowing Cloud Villa, I will naturally go back. I don't need your help. What plans do you have? After you go back to the Flowing Cloud Villa with me, you can do whatever you want. Now, you have to go back with me. In terms of sword competition, Lu Qijin was a very stubborn person. Nia Yunqing didn't want to go to the Flowing Cloud Villa immediately. He still had a lot of things to figure out. During this time, the Jianghu was very chaotic. He had to figure out who wanted to kill him and target the Flowing Cloud Villa. Child Lu, goodbye. Nia Yunqing decided to run away, and he winked at Ruan Qianling. Ruan Qianling understood. If she wanted to escape from Lu Qijin, she still needed some special means. Tang Guo couldn't be more clear about Yuan Qianling's means. Before the other party made a move, she handed Lu Qijin a handkerchief. Lu Qijin might not be afraid, but it would be troublesome. It was mentioned in the plot that because of Yuan Qianling's help, Nie Yunqing really slipped away at that time. Yuan Qianling helped him disguise himself again. However, who was Lu Qijin? Not long after, he found her again. Tang Guo didn't want to waste her time running with them. She simply handed Lu Qijin a handkerchief, which happened to block the medicine in Yuan Qianling's hand so that they wouldn't be affected. Sure enough, Yuan Qianling sprinkled a lot of powder at Lu Qijin and took the opportunity to escape with Nie Yunqing. This time, they did not succeed. Lu Qijin used Tang Guo's handkerchief to cover his mouth and nose. When Yuan Qianling made a move, he had already noticed it and closed his eyes at the same time. Just as the two of them turned around to flee, he leaped forward and blocked their path with his hearing. Upon seeing this, Yuan Qianling became anxious. This Lu Qijin was really a difficult guy to deal with. She fled in another direction. Unexpectedly, the person standing in this direction was Tang Guo. Yuan Qianling couldn't recognize Tang Guo. During this period of time, she had heard that there was a lot of talk about a woman in the Jianghu. It was said that she was new to the Jianghu and her surname was Tang. She had some fame because she destroyed the three brothers of the Jiang family. Yuan Qianling didn't think that Tang Guo was very powerful. She immediately scolded, "If you don't want to die, get out of my way." Tang Guo was unmoved. Yuan Qianling attacked her with her red silk. She was extremely fierce. Yuan Qianling deserved to be called a demon girl. If it were someone else, facing Yuan Qianling's attack, they would definitely avoid it. As a top master in the Jianghu, Tang Guo certainly didn't need to. She felt that Yuan Qianling had been in the Jianghu for the past few years and had been smooth sailing. She was really a little arrogant. Chapter 3897. It was a rare opportunity to fight, so she might as well teach the other party a lesson. She immediately unsheathed her sword. Yuan Qianling thought that Tang Guo was trying to stop her and wanted to fight with her. She also wanted to teach Tang Guo a lesson and make her suffer. Don't think that just because you are a little famous, you can casually provoke Yuan Qianling. Tang Guo saw Yuan Qianling's arrogance and didn't say anything. When the red silk attacked her face, she didn't dodge but raised her sword. The sword was very simple and unadorned. It seemed that there was no skill to speak of. Lu Qijin watched carefully. In order to prevent Nie Yunqing from escaping, he directly hit Nie Yunqing's acupoints. Then he threw Nie Yunqing aside and carefully observed Tang Guo's seemingly empty sword. Looking at the serious energy, it seemed that he didn't want to miss the slightest detail. Yuan Qianling was also shocked. She wanted to wave the red silk to dodge, but to her horror, it seemed that there was no way to dodge. No matter where she dodged, the sword would endlessly pursue her. Yuan Qianling only thought for a moment. Before she could think of a way to dodge, Tang Guo's sword didn't wait for her and chopped down on the red silk. Yuan Qianling shouted, "No!" It was too late. The sword fell on the red silk. It was clearly a gentle stroke, but she heard the sound of the red silk shattering. The luminous pearl shattered. At the same time, the red silk shattered into pieces. Like petals of fiery red flowers, they floated down from the air. It was very beautiful. The powerful sword energy shook Yuan Qianling's arm until it was numb. She looked at Tang Guo with a face full of horror. With just one sword, the other party made her unable to fight back. This kind of master was really terrifying. Having been in the Jianghu for several years, Yuan Qianling had always done whatever she wanted. For the first time, she felt powerless. It wasn't that she had never met a master, but she had never met a master who couldn't dodge a sword move. A master who could destroy her weapon with just one sword move. Ruan Qianling's arm was just numb from the shock, but she didn't suffer any other injuries. But what she experienced now was more uncomfortable than being seriously injured. This blow was simply destroying her self-confidence. It was just a single sword strike. It didn't hurt anyone, but it was enough to destroy her best weapon. What kind of expert could reach such a level? Of course, Ruan Qianling was unwilling to accept this. This was the first time she had encountered such a thing. The pride at the bottom of his heart was struck so hard that he could not raise his head. Especially since she had wanted to teach him a lesson just now. Now, she only felt her face burning. What's your name? I will defeat you one day. Ruan Qianling's eyes were burning with a raging fire. Don't be complacent. You may be able to defeat me today, but you might not be able to tomorrow. Tanguo put her sword back into its scabbard and said with a faint smile, defeat me? Give up. You won't be able to defeat me in this lifetime. Don't be so sure. I, Ruan Qianling, will defeat you one day. Tanguo was too lazy to say anything to Ruan Qianling. The other party was very arrogant. She wasn't afraid that Ruan Qianling would practice martial arts seriously from now on. Nia Yunxing couldn't get the 3 treasures of the Falling Flower Palace. It was good that Ruan Qianling was stronger. Nia Yunxing was a troublemaker. Without powerful strength and Ruan Qianling's protection, he might really court death. If he courted death, then there would be no good show to watch. As for Ruan Qianling, she had already been removed from the Falling Flower Palace's list since she woke up. She just had to wait for Ruan Qianling to make a mistake and take the initiative to betray the Falling Flower Palace. Then, she would take advantage of the situation. When will the things in the village be settled? Lu Qijin asked. He wiped his sweat. The last day of this month. How about it? I'll invite friends from all over the Jianghu to watch and thank you for your hard work these days. It had to be said that he was good at winning people's hearts. Knowing that he couldn't avoid this matter, he simply agreed. It wasn't a bad thing to have a sword duel with Lu Qijin. It wasn't a life and death battle. Treating the people of Jianghu to a meal could appease the unwillingness of those who didn't get the reward. Lu Qijin didn't care about this and immediately agreed. Chapter 3899. When Ruan Qianling saw Nia Yunxing being sent to the Drifting Cloud Villa, she was relieved. She turned her head and began to ponder what method she should use to defeat Tanguo. She still remembered the humiliation she had suffered that day. Ruan Qianling was called a witch in Jianghu. It could be seen that her means were not open and above board. She would do whatever she wanted to do without paying too much attention to morality. In her opinion, as long as she could make Tanguo suffer, she would be satisfied. However, Tanguo was too strong. She couldn't find any weakness. During this time, she crazily inquired about Tanguo in Jianghu. Unfortunately, she didn't find anything, so she could only give up. Ruan Qianling was currently very interested in Nia Yunxing. She often sneaked into the Drifting Cloud Villa to see Nia Yunxing. Su Xinyue came back and pestered Nia Yunxing all day, which made Ruan Qianling angry. Every time she wanted to punish Su Xinyue, she was stopped by Nia Yunxing in time. The scene of the 2 women fighting for the man had appeared. Tanguo was not interested in it. She was looking forward to what would happen next. On the last day of the month, Nia He and Lu Qijin had a sword competition. Jianghu people from all sides came to the Drifting Cloud Villa to watch. After the sword competition, a big event would happen, which would lead to a series of contradictions. The day of the sword competition finally arrived. Lu Qijin and Tang Guo went to the Drifting Cloud Villa early in the morning. Jianghu people from all sides came one after another. They hadn't seen the scene of masters fighting for a long time. Lu Qijin had been looking for opponents. At his level, except for the famous people in the big sects, there were few others who could catch his eye. Those who had once competed with Lu Qijin in the Jianghu all had complicated expressions on their faces. It could be said that Lu Qijin had been challenging people everywhere since he was 7 years old. They had seen his rapid progress with their own eyes. They had witnessed a peerless martial artist reach the peak. How could they not have complicated feelings? Can we start now? Lu Qijin appeared to be very anxious. In any case, he was one of the top experts. He nodded when he saw that most of the people were here. The people of Jianghu were more casual. They would fight whenever they wanted. When two experts exchanged blows, the laymen would only cheer while the professionals would sigh at the exquisiteness of their swordsmanship. This was especially true for Lu Qijin, who had fused the 100 schools of sword techniques. Every time he attacked, his sword techniques were different. No one could figure out Lu Qijin's moves. Fortunately, Lu Qijin and Tang Guo were sitting in the VIP seats. Are you the Miss Tang who crippled the 3 Jiang brothers? Tang Guo heard a clear and melodious voice. She turned her head and saw a woman dressed in white. She looked elegant and beautiful, like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. May I know who you are? Luo Lisin. Luo Lisin raised her head and glanced at Lu Qijin, who was sparring with He. Her eyes flashed with infatuation. I heard that you're very close to 7 swords. System, 7 swords. She even called him so intimately. Did she think that she could make the host misunderstand? She was thinking too much. Does it have anything to do with you? Tang Guo asked. Luo Lisin frowned slightly and looked a bit proud. You'd better not have any ideas about 7 swords. He's not someone you can covet. So, what does it have to do with you? Tang Guo asked again. She paused and said, you like Lu Qijin. But he only likes swords. You don't have a chance. Find someone else. Whether he likes me or not, I will get him. Luo Lisin waved the sword in her hand. The day I defeat him with my sword, he will be mine. Chapter 3900. Luo Lisin said this with great determination. In fact, she was not confident in defeating Lu Qijin. In front of her rival in love, she could never admit defeat. In terms of momentum, she had to suppress the other party. This woman surnamed Tang had stayed by Lu Qijin's side for so long, which gave her a great sense of crisis. Subconsciously, Luo Lisin wanted to drive Tang Guo away and not let her appear by Lu Qijin's side. You think too much. Lu Qijin is a peerless martial arts talent, especially in the comprehension of swordsmanship. You can't surpass him even if you live another lifetime. Tang Guo's words were arrogant to the extreme, which was very annoying. She was the palace master of Luohua Palace, a she-devil. Did she need to be polite? These words really made Luo Lisin angry. Maybe it was because she had the title of the #1 beauty in Wulin and carried the burden of being an idol. She didn't do as she pleased like Wan Qianling, but her eyes became sharper. So, you won't leave 7 swords. Whether I leave him or not has nothing to do with you. Who are you? If I leave just because you ask me to leave, I will lose face. If you ask for help, you should have the attitude of asking for help. Don't look down on the commoners. Lu Qijin didn't marry you, and I didn't hear that he liked anyone. There is no promise of marriage between the two of you. Not to mention that you are the number one beauty in Wulin. Even if you are the number one beauty in the world, you are not qualified to make me leave. Luo Lisin still wanted to say something, but there was a movement in the arena, and everyone's attention was completely attracted. "Nya," he said, "I lost. Young Master Lu is indeed young Master Lu. His swordsmanship is invincible. I lost." Nya He's calm manner of admitting it was quite graceful. Looking at the reaction of the people present, his swordsmanship with Lu Qijin didn't affect his reputation much. "Everyone, today I am honored to invite you to watch the swordsmanship between me and young Master Lu. The villa has already prepared some wine. Please help yourselves. Thank you for helping my son. Villa head Nya is really polite. You are too polite." Everyone was very satisfied with this banquet. However, just when everyone was feeling satisfied, a voice came from outside the door. "Villa head Nya, your place is very lively. It seems that I came at a bad time today." The person who came in was a skinny middle-aged man with a sage-like demeanor. When the crowd saw him, they began to whisper among themselves. "It's the sect master of the Seven Stars sect, Kong Heyuan. It is said that the last time the Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa received an escort, it was from the Seven Stars sect. I don't know what they were escorting. The Seven Stars sect is looking for trouble. It seems that this matter is not over yet. I don't know how Villa head Nya will deal with this matter. It's been so long and it still hasn't been handled properly. Most likely, Villa head Nya can't provide the escorted items. So it's Sect Master Kong." Nya he greeted but was interrupted by Kong Heyuan. "Villa head Nya, let's cut the pleasantries. Earlier, I sent someone over to ask about it. You said that after you found young Master Nya, you would give us an explanation. Now that young Master Nya has been found, you should give our Seven-Star sect an explanation. This lost item, I don't know if it is with young Master Nya." Kong Heyuan's gaze fell on Nya Yunqing's face. "If it is with young Master Nya, then please return it today. It's best for us to come and take it back ourselves." "This. Nya," he muttered. Nya Yunqing opened his mouth and said, "Senior Kong, the person who chased after me that day killed everyone in the villa. He stole the item. I barely escaped with my life, so..." Chapter 3901. You were the ones who escorted the goods. No matter what happened to you, since the goods were lost, you have to compensate me. I can't let my goods be lost in vain because of what young Master Nya said. Kong Heyuan said, "Besides, why are the people who escorted the goods dead, but young Master Nya is still alive?" According to young Master Nya's description, the other party should be very powerful. To put it bluntly, with young Master Nya's martial arts, you shouldn't be able to escape, right? Young Master Nya, can you give me an explanation? Nya Yunqing was still young, so he was a little angry on the spot. He suppressed his anger and said calmly, "At that time, I was seriously injured by the other party and fell off the cliff. The other party thought I was dead, so I was lucky to survive. Forget it, I won't pursue the other matters. As long as Villa head Nya compensates me, it's fine. Villa head Nya should be very clear about what is in the goods. I don't need to say anything more about how to compensate, right?" Nya he said, "Sect head Kong, rest assured. I will find the murderer as soon as possible and find the goods as soon as possible." Villa head Nya, your words are ridiculous. You should know how important that thing is. You said you will find it as soon as possible, but can you really find it? Kong Heyuan's face sank. "Villa head Nya, that is a treasure map. You said you can find it, but can you guarantee when you will find it?" When Kong Heyuan's words fell, everyone was in an uproar. Treasure map. It was actually a treasure map. Everyone whispered to each other. There was indeed a rumor in Jianghu that there was a treasure map that was divided into several parts and hidden in various places. It was said that if you found the treasure in the treasure map, it would be easy to develop a sect into the #1 sect in Jianghu. It could even last for thousands of years. It was said that there were all kinds of divine weapons and even peerless martial arts inside. What did Jianghu people want to become the most? Of course, it was a peerless master, the kind that no one could defeat. Tang Guo could hear the sound of people swallowing their saliva. This thing was very tempting and almost no one could resist it. Is it really a treasure map? It seems to be true. Otherwise, why would the people of the Seven Stars sect come here at this time? They probably saw that it was impossible to find the treasure map, so they came to settle accounts with Drifting Cloud Villa. Villa head Nya, you can't blame the Drifting Cloud Manor for what happened during the escort mission. I'm afraid that we won't be able to find the treasure map. Kong Heyuan spoke again, I have a compromise here. You should know how valuable the treasure map is. The treasures inside are priceless, but now they are all gone. So, my Seven Stars sect wants half of your Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor. Isn't it too much? As soon as Kong Heyuan's words fell, everyone present felt that he was very shameless. Although the treasure map was precious, if it was only a part of it, it would not be enough to find the treasures. This was simply like trying to gain something without risking anything. Sect Master Kong, aren't you going a little too far? Nya, he said. Villa head Nya, how have I crossed the line? It's obvious that you were careless and lost my 7-star sect's things. Shouldn't you compensate me? Everyone felt that Kong Heyuan was a little shameless, but his words still made some sense. They looked at Nyahi's expression. Drifting Cloud Manor will try our best to find the location of the treasure map. Nyahi repeated his previous words. How about a year? If you can't find it within a year, I will give half of the Drifting Cloud Manor to your 7-star sect. Okay. Kong Heyuan agreed. He also knew that it was useless to push it. The banquet ended and everyone left. At this time, people from all sides of Jianghu had already begun to look for the whereabouts of the treasure map. Lu Qijin, do you know the treasure map? Lu Qijin nodded. I've heard of it. After a pause, he said, do you want it? If you want it, I can help you find it. The condition is that you agree to compete with me. System, you deserve to be single for a lifetime. 7 swords. Luo Lisan's voice came from behind. She urged her horse to quickly rush to Lu Qijin's side. I called you just now, why didn't you hear me? Why didn't you wait for me? After that, she glanced at Tang Guo with displeasure. Lu Qijin, I didn't want to wait for you. Her swordsmanship was so bad that he had no interest. Chapter 3902. 7 swords, do you think my swordsmanship has improved? Of course, Luo Lisan couldn't get Lu Qijin to spar with her, but she could find someone in Jianghu to spar with her. Lu Qijin wasn't willing to spar, but that didn't mean he wouldn't watch others spar. After all, he had always been looking for an opponent. What if she did it again? Miss Luo, can I leave now? The man who was pulled over by Luo Lisan had a bitter expression. If he knew that he would meet Lu Qijin and Luo Lisan today, he wouldn't have gone out. The next time he went out, he would check the almanac to avoid being dragged over by Luo Lisan. Who would want to compete every day? There's nothing for you to do here, you can leave. Luo Lisan casually threw a money bag to the man. The man felt much more comfortable and quickly left with the money bag. Luo Lisan moved closer to Lu Qijin and asked again, 7 swords, how is my swordsmanship now? Can I spar with you? System, another crazy one, thinking about sparring with swords all day long. Lu Qijin shook his head seriously and said in a light tone, "Not very good, there are too many tricks. There's no improvement like last time." His words were full of disdain, giving people a feeling of how much time had passed and why she had only improved so little. This made Luo Lisan's face almost crooked from anger. Luo Lisan smiled stiffly, but Lu Qijin ignored her. He turned to Tang Gua and said, "Miss Tang, come with me to get something." Seeing Tang Gua's doubts, he continued, 10,000 gold, antidote pills, and a martial arts manual. I promised you before. Okay. Luo Lisan was unhappy and asked, 7 swords, what is your relationship with her? Why are you giving her these things? Everyone knew that Lu Qijin didn't get close to women and only had eyes for swords. If it was someone else, how could they escape from her hands? She had chased Lu Qijin for many years, but she had never seen him treat any woman with a pleasant expression. Why was he so different to this woman surnamed Tang? 10,000 gold, antidote pills, and a martial arts manual. Which one of these things didn't make people jealous? It sounded so understated, but she felt that something wasn't right. Why did he give it to her out of the blue? Luo Lisan's face suddenly turned pale. Could it be a betrothal gift? She raised her head abruptly to look at the two of them. They had only known each other for a short while and they were already giving betrothal gifts. Miss Tang's swordsmanship is very exquisite. When Lu Qijin said this, his face was serious and his eyes were full of praise. He even glanced at Luo Lisan and said, even if you practice swordsmanship for a few more decades, you won't be able to reach the level of exquisiteness of her swordsmanship. Luo Lisan was so angry that she was about to vomit blood. She looked as if she couldn't compete with her anyway. Lu Qijin. Tang Gua shook her head gently. With such a low EQ, it was no wonder that he was destined to be a single dog in the plot. System, if you're not a single dog, then you're dirty. Do you still want it? Hee, women. Luo Lisan tightly pursed her lips and looked at the two people who were leaving. She gritted her teeth and finally followed them. 2 days later, Lu Qijin brought Tang Gua to a shop to meet with someone. The shop owner gave Lu Qijin a bundle. The gold has been exchanged for gold notes, antidote pills, and martial arts manuals are all inside. Lu Qijin said, open it and take a look. He stuffed the bundle into Tang Gua's arms. Also, do you want to compete with swords now? I don't want to. Tell me when you want to. System, Lu Qijin didn't have a good time competing with Niehi last time. Chapter 3903. He felt that Niehi did not use his full strength. Even if Niehi did his best, it seemed that he was not his opponent. Thus, Lu Qijin had no interest in Niehi. No need. You are Lu Qijin. Why would you lie to me? Tang Gua did not stand on ceremony and accepted the gift. Luo Lisan, who was watching from the side, was very jealous. However, she had asked Tang Gua on the way. This was not a betrothal gift. It was Lu Qijin's compensation for her disgust. This made her feel a little better. During these days of following Tang Gua and Lu Qijin, Luo Lisan had been practicing swordsmanship every day. Although she was talented in martial arts, her understanding of swordsmanship could only be regarded as average. Her progress was slow. After being beaten by Lu Qijin, Luo Lisan especially wanted to compare notes with Tang Gua. She wanted to see if the other party was really as powerful as Lu Qijin said. Other people might not understand, but she understood. Lu Qijin treated Tang Gua differently. She did not know what was different, but her intuition told her that it was very different. Where are we going next? Tang Gua asked. Lu Qijin took a sip of tea and then said, to find the treasure map. I asked you before. Do you want the treasure map? I don't want it. Tangua shook her head. This thing was a hot potato. She, who had read the plot, should say that this was a scam. This was just something that would stir up disputes in the martial arts world. It was not a good thing. She only wanted to watch the fun and did not want to participate in the martial arts world at all. Is that so? Lu Qijin's tone was very disappointed. Tangua did not want the treasure map. This meant that he could not ask for the treasure map under the condition of a sword competition. Then why are you still looking for the treasure map? Tangua asked. Lu Qijin nodded as he thought of a brilliant idea. His face was filled with joy as he said, when I get the treasure map, I'll have all the reputable people in Jianghu compete with me in swordsmanship. Whoever wins will get the treasure map. Rumor has it that the treasure map is divided into 3 parts. Lu Qijin was already thinking about how to get all of the treasure maps. Could it be that with 3 treasure maps, everyone in the martial arts world would be willing to compete with me in swords? Tangua, Luo Lisin, system, this guy is hopeless. The treasure map that the people of the Jianghu fought so hard for was actually used to attract people to compete with him. This ambition was not something that an ordinary person could understand. Miss Tang, why don't you come with me so that when you want to compete, you won't have to travel long distances to find me? Lu Qijin pondered for a moment before saying, I'll take care of your meals along the way. I'm a bit tired from riding a horse every day. I don't want to run around. Tangua declined. System, what do you mean by declining? This is an old habit of yours. You're teasing people again. System, dear host, your EQ is so low. You're not embarrassed to tease her. It's a waste not to tease her. If I don't tease her, my character will collapse. System, speechless. Luo Lisin listened from the side and thought to herself, hurry up and go back. Leave Lu Qijin to me. Unexpectedly, when they left the inn the next day, they saw a very luxurious carriage outside. Tangua was about to get on the horse when Lu Qijin stopped her. Miss Tang, the carriage, please. Lu Qijin gestured for her to get on. This carriage was arranged by my people. There are many layers of animal skins inside and the wheels are specially made so that it won't be bumpy. System, I've invested a lot of money. Who is this guy? He said to prepare the carriage and it came. Is he a hidden tycoon? Is this his desire to live? Chapter 3904. Since you're like this, I really can't refuse. Tangua unceremoniously got into the carriage. It was very spacious and could easily accommodate a few people. She lifted the curtain and said, I'll definitely let you know when I want to compete. Lu Qijin's expression became gentler. Okay, there's no hurry. In the future, we'll travel Jianghu together and can compete at any time. System, ha 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 ha, this must be a desire to survive. Luo Lisin anxiously looked at the luxurious carriage and glanced at Lu Qijin. Qijin, I also feel that the ride is very bumpy. Recently, it's been very uncomfortable. Lu Qijin turned back and seriously suggested, then don't ride a horse. If we don't ride a horse, are we going to walk? Luo Lisin asked, we can't walk every day, right? Our feet will be sore and painful. Besides, we can't be outside every day, right? Then go home. Lu Qijin sincerely suggested, it's better to go home. If you're not used to the wind, sun, and rain, it's not suitable to travel Jianghu. But I just want to travel Jianghu. Luo Lisin was already gnashing her teeth. He said he would prepare a carriage for Tangua, but when it came to her, he told her to go home. Too hateful. Besides, you don't have to ride a horse to travel Jianghu. You can also take a carriage or something. Didn't you prepare a carriage for Miss Tang? Luo Lisin was very angry. He said it so clearly, could it be that he didn't understand? Lu Qijin thought for a moment and said, "That's right, you can go and hire a carriage or two." After saying that, Lu Qijin lifted the curtain of the carriage and went in. Leaving Luo Lisin outside, she looked at his back with a shocked expression. Asking her to hire a carriage, was this something a human would say? System, ha 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 ha, how could Luo Lisin like this low EQ person? Most likely, she took a fancy to his sword. Seeing that the carriage was about to be taken away, Luo Lisin stopped it and lifted the curtain. "Qijin, I can't hire a carriage for the time being, so I'll take yours." "I can't." Lu Qijin refused. "There are only 2 seats in the carriage." He motioned for Luo Lisin to see clearly. "You can hire one. The Luo family has shops all over the world, it's not like you don't have money." System, ha 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 ha, it's not like you don't have money. Lu Qijin pulled down the curtain with a stream of sword qi. The coachman outside was very tactful and quickly drove the carriage away. "Lu Qijin, does your family have a lot of money?" Lu Qijin said, "Not much, but it's enough." "Is your family rich or the Luo family rich?" Lu Qijin said, "It should be my house. We don't have any clues at the moment. How do we find the treasure map?" Although Tang Gui knew the plot and knew where 2 of the treasure maps were, she did not know where the remaining treasure map was. Regarding the treasure map, the plot was still rather vague. "I know where the treasure map is." Lu Qijin's words surprised Tang Guo a little. There are 3 treasure maps in total. One of them belongs to the 7 Stars sect, but it has been robbed. The other one is missing, but I know where the last one is. Tang Guo's eyes gradually calmed down. So, with the information from the 2 of them combined, they know the whereabouts of all 3 treasure maps. "Where is it?" "There's one in the Spirit Potion Valley." Lu Qijin said without hesitation, "Let's find the other maps first." "There's no rush for this one, you can take it at any time." "Take it at any time. Is the Spirit Potion Valley your home?" Tang Guo just said casually, but she didn't expect Lu Qijin to nod. "I didn't expect you to guess it." Tang Guo. System, the host is doubting life, mainly because Lu Qijin hit it too well. Chapter 3905. About the treasure map, I also know something about it. Lu Qijin's face was full of interest. "Where is it?" "One of them is beyond the Great Wall." Tang Guo knew where the stolen treasure map was, but she didn't want to expose it for the time being. "There's a place called Yellow Sand Lake beyond the Great Wall." "I know that place. I've been there before to compete with a swordsman beyond the Great Wall. Unfortunately, when I arrived, the swordsman had already passed away." Lu Qijin came back to his senses. "Then let's go beyond the Great Wall." "Okay." The carriage drove all the way to the Great Wall. 2 days later, Luo Lisin also followed in a carriage. The people in Jianghu were already used to the fact that Tang Guo and Lu Qijin were together, but Luo Lisin's following made the people in Jianghu talk about it. However, no matter how many anecdotes and gossip there were, it couldn't compare to the news of the treasure map. Since the news of the treasure map was leaked, Jianghu was full of news about the location of the treasure map, which attracted a large number of people in Jianghu to look for it. With so many people involved, it was inevitable that all kinds of conflicts would occur. Crippled, and 2 dead people. To the Jianghu, this was a very normal thing. Among them, the behavior of the soul-seizing sect and the distant Soul Palace made the people in Jianghu angry. As long as people from these 2 sects appeared, they would stir up a bloody storm. The people in Jianghu who had conflicts with the two sects would be injured at best, and even lose their lives at worst. The Jianghu was getting more and more chaotic, and the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace killed more and more people. The people in Jianghu were in danger and especially hoped that the famous righteous sects would come out to uphold justice. Therefore, some people spoke out, hoping that there would be a Wuling alliance leader. A Wuling alliance leader could lead all the sects to suppress or even eradicate evil sects like the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace. Many of the famous righteous sects were not willing at all. Who liked to be suppressed? Until someone spread the news that the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace had each found a treasure map. Therefore, the voice in the pugilistic world became, "We must not let these two sects get the treasure map. Otherwise, there will be chaos in the pugilistic world, and the other sects will not be able to survive." Now, whether or not the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace really had the treasure map, the martial artists could no longer tolerate them. If he really got it, would they still be able to survive? These two sects would take people's lives at the drop of a hat. It wasn't as if they hadn't exterminated a sect before. The matter of searching for the treasure map was temporarily put on hold, and the martial arts world began to make arrangements to elect a martial arts alliance master. Who could become the Wuling alliance chief? Of course, it was the one with the highest martial arts. At this time, Nia Yunqing had been caught up in the dispute between Wan Qianling and Su Xinyue. In addition, his martial arts were not good enough for him to be the chief of Wuling, so he was not very keen on this matter. As the number one villa owner, he definitely had to participate. Moreover, in the Jianghu, he had a very high chance of becoming the Wuling alliance leader. Currently, there were already quite a few sects that came to the manor to drink tea and discuss some matters. It was clear that they supported him. Kong Heiyuan, the leader of the Seven Stars sect, also wanted to compete for the position of the Wuling alliance leader. Other top sects were unwilling to submit to others. How could they miss out on sects like the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace? The pugilistic world seemed to be more lively. How could Wan Qianling miss out on such a lively scene? She even felt that the Falling Flower Palace was not bad. She hurriedly went to the Falling Flower Palace, intending to persuade Tang Guo to participate in the election of the Wuling alliance leader. Tang Guo was beyond the Great Wall at this time, so she didn't know about this at all. Chapter 3906. After Wan Qianling left the Falling Flower Palace, she heard that Tang Guo was in seclusion. She was very regretful and encouraged the other members of the Falling Flower Palace to participate in the election. The protectors of the Falling Flower Palace looked at each other. Sure enough, the palace master had expected it. The young palace master's temperament was still uncertain. The Falling Flower Palace had never been associated with other sects in Jianghu. If they were involved, it would be disadvantageous for the Falling Flower Palace. If it weren't for the palace master's repeated warnings, they might have been persuaded. In the plot, Wan Qianling's words did move the four protectors of the Falling Flower Palace and they went to cause trouble at the election. In the plot, they were not as strong as they were now. Although they were in the limelight, they did not snatch the position of the Wuling alliance. Now their martial arts had improved a lot. Because of Tang Guo's warnings, they did not have the intention to go down the mountain to show off. The palace master has ordered that we can't go down the mountain before she comes out of seclusion. We have to guard the palace master in case of a sneak attack. Wan Qianling quickly said, "Just one will go. It won't affect anything. Aunt Chunmei, how about you go and let Aunt Chiu Wu and the others guard the Falling Flower Palace?" Wan Qianling was unwilling to let the so-called famous sects in Jianghu take the limelight. Their Falling Flower Palace was not bad. Being called a devil all day long made her uncomfortable. No. Chun Mei refused without hesitation. They still felt that the palace master was right. What limelight? It was best to hide their strength. No opponent knew about the Falling Flower Palace. It was the safest for the Falling Flower Palace. Sure enough, the young palace master was still too young. The palace master was right. She needed more experience to be competent for the position of the palace master in the future. No matter how Wan Qianling coaxed and pestered, she did not succeed. Even if she said that the soul-snatching sect and the distant Soul Palace would participate, Chun Mei did not have the slightest intention of moving. In the end, she could only give up and go down the mountain alone. The Wulin assembly began, and people from all over the world came. The most important characters would usually appear at the end. Moreover, the Wulin Alliance Master Selection was a tag team battle. It was a little different from tag team battle. After the battle, one could rest and then continue to accept challenges. Tanggua, who was far beyond the Great Wall, also knew what had happened in Wulin. Regret? Once he leaves, there will be a martial arts convention, Tanggua said with a smile. Lu Qijin crushed the letter and shook his head. Once I find the treasure map, they will be more than happy to compete with me. System, who wants to spar with you every day? There was still one more day before they would arrive at Yellow Sand Lake. Tanggua and the others chose an inn to stay in. The inn was located in the middle of the desert. There were no other buildings in front or behind it, nor were there any green leaves. The scenery was very desolate. The nature inn was very simple and crude. Walking in, there were 2 or 3 guests eating inside. Then, a seductive woman came up to them. After sizing them up, she walked lightly to Lu Qijin and reached out her slender fingers to touch Lu Qijin's chest. Lu Qijin was very direct. He shook the sword in his hand, and a cold light flashed in front of his eyes. The woman was so scared that she hurriedly retreated. Judging from her movements, she should be someone with good martial arts skills. Oh, the guests are so fierce. You scared me to death. My heart is about to split open. This woman was the inn's proprietress. She slowly walked in front of Lu Qijin. Guests, are you eating or staying? Staying, Lu Qijin said. The woman agreed with a smile. She turned around and was about to make arrangements when she purposely stepped on her skirt and fell towards Lu Qijin. Tanggua, Lu Qijin, and Luo Lisin tacitly moved to the side. The woman directly fell to the ground and cried out. She looked at Lu Qijin with a pitiful expression, "Young master, it hurts, it hurts." Lu Qijin didn't even look at the woman. He found a clean table and sat down. Bear with it. Miss Tanggua, what do you want to eat? Lu Qijin asked. If you don't like the food here, ask the coachman to get it from the carriage. Proprietress, bear with it. Is this person a dog? Doesn't he know how to be gentle with women? Chapter 3907. The lady boss got up from the ground and went to Lu Qijin's side. She stomped her feet and said, Gongzi, you're so cruel. Luo Lisin looked at the scene in front of her. She didn't know why, but her face was a little hot. She wasn't as shameless as the lady boss. She wasn't reserved. Her previous behavior was also treated like this by Lu Qijin. Did other people look at her the way they looked at the lady boss? Luo Lisin's face was red, green, and white. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. Thinking back to the past, she felt ashamed. Gongzi, I just fell and hurt. Don't you care about me? The lady boss didn't believe in heresy. She wanted to make Lu Qijin waver. She thought that no matter how calm he was, he wouldn't be able to handle her. Was there any man who wasn't lustful? She was quite confident in her own appearance. Lu Qijin said, "I'm not your father." The implication was that he should care about her parents. Luo Lisin had slowly accepted that Lu Qijin's words were unpleasant to hear. No, it wasn't pleasant to hear. It was simply a poisonous tongue. The lady boss was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down. She couldn't wait to kill Lu Qijin. The people in front of her had some skills. They couldn't be easily provoked. The lady boss knew that she couldn't do anything to Lu Qijin. She returned to normal and started to entertain them. At night, the three of them stayed in the inn. In the lady boss's room, a few big men were discussing. "Lady boss, are these people fat sheep? Do you want to make a move tonight? That man's meat looks firm. He's not bad. Those two women are really beautiful. They can definitely be sold for a good price." As soon as they finished speaking, the lady boss slapped their heads. "Idiots, you can't touch these people. The people who came today weren't simple." She wasn't afraid of anything, but she didn't want to provoke them. The night passed peacefully. The next day, the group continued to go to Yellow Sand Lake. A lot of people died in that inn. The smell of blood is everywhere. Luo Lisin said, "Aren't you curious about who died there? That lady boss didn't look like a good person. Those people probably died in her hands. I think it's most likely murder and robbery." Tangua didn't say anything. She remembered her identity. She was a female devil in Jianghu, not a Jianghu Taoist priest. Those who made a living in the Jianghu basically had their heads on the line. If they died, it could only be said that their skills were not as good as others. Looking at Lu Qijin's appearance, it was obvious that he was not a busybody. When Luo Lisin saw that the two of them didn't want to talk about it, she gritted her teeth bitterly. How long had this Tang guy and Lu Qijin known each other? How could they have such tacit understanding? She was so angry. It doesn't matter if the lady boss of this inn is a good person or not. The dishes are pretty good. Luo Lisin added, "It's more to my taste. By the way, why did you only order vegetarian dishes yesterday? We've been out for a long time, so we should eat some meat." "You ate meat?" Tangua couldn't help but ask, "When did you eat?" Luo Lisin remembered the taste of meat last night and said, "I was hungry in the middle of the night. I went downstairs and asked the lady boss for some food. She gave me a few meat buns. The taste was really good." Luo Lisin was still reminiscing about the taste of the meat buns, so Tangua didn't say anything more. But Luo Lisin didn't let it go. "What, do you have a problem?" "No." Tangua shook her head. The truth was cruel, so she didn't say it. If she said it, Luo Lisin probably wouldn't be able to look straight at meat buns in this life. She originally thought that Luo Lisin should have noticed something when Lu Qijin only ordered vegetarian dishes yesterday and refused the meat buns recommended by the lady boss. Chapter 3908. This Luo Lisin was truly a newbie. She could only survive in the Central Plains. Beyond the Great Wall, it was far more dangerous than the Central Plains. It was even more common to challenge a person's bottom line here. Luo Lisin felt that something was off, but she didn't think too much about it. She continued to talk about the steamed buns. "I brought some steamed buns with me. Do you want some? It's not impossible for you to eat them, but you have to leave 7 swords. Miss Luo, do you think that Lu Qijin is only worth 2 steamed buns?" "System, haha." Tangua's words made Luo Lisin blush. "Forget it. I won't argue about this for now. If you want to eat, I'll give them to you. Aren't you looking for the treasure map? Let's see who finds it first." If I find it, you have to agree to my conditions. Do you want some steamed buns? Luo Lisin asked again. Tang Guo refused. No. I think the steamed buns are already cold. They don't taste good. Let's not eat them. Just start a fire and steam them. I brought a small pot and charcoal. Since Luo Lisin was so persistent, Tang Guo didn't say anything else. Half a day later, at Yellow Sand Lake. It was rare to see this place bustling with desert residents. The people here were all tall and had high noses. Their clothes were also very different from those in the Central Plains. When Tang Guo and the others appeared, they were surrounded by the residents. They asked if they had brought any items from the Central Plains and were willing to trade with them. When they arrived, Tang Guo put some items in the carriage and took them out to trade. She also asked the residents about the situation here. There was a person in Yellow Sand Lake who had the treasure map. As long as she could find this person, she would have a chance to obtain the treasure map. Through the trading of items, Tang Guo found out about Di Weiping's whereabouts. She took Lu Qijin and followed the guide to Di Weiping's place. Di Weiping lived in a shabby tent. He looked sloppy and lazy, and one of his arms was broken. But judging from his face, it was certain that Di Weiping was from the Central Plains. The person who led the way left after getting the benefits, leaving only Tang Guo and Lu Qijin in Di Weiping. As for Luo Lisin, she had been looking everywhere for the whereabouts of the treasure map. Little did she know that Tang Guo and Lu Qijin had come prepared. You came all the way here to look for a cripple like me. Speak, what's the matter? Di Weiping was boiling a pot. By the looks of it, he was preparing to cook something. More than 10 years ago, I left the Chinese world of martial artists. Right now, I'm already a cripple. I might not be able to help you much. Di Weiping looked as if he had really retired. But Tang Guo said, are you really willing to leave the Chinese martial arts world without any reluctance? Right now, the Chinese world of martial artists is choosing their alliance master. If there are no accidents, he might be the candidate for the alliance master. He. Di Weiping murmured in a low voice. Hatred flashed in his eyes. It was unknown what he thought of, but the flame of hatred gradually extinguished. That has nothing to do with me. Do you have a treasure map in your hands? Lu Qijin was more direct. If you do, give it to me. Di Weiping was speechless. His cheeks were twitching. He had never met such a person. How shameless was he to ask for a treasure map? Do you want to recover your martial arts? Tang Guo continued to ask. Di Weiping's eyes were filled with expectation, but they dimmed again. I know my body's condition. I can only recover if I go to the Elixir Valley. But the Elixir Valley is not a place where we can go as we please. Forget it. Chapter 3909. The reason why Tang Guo knew that Di Weiping had a copy of the treasure map was because it was mentioned in the plot. Later, Di Weiping took the treasure map and the sword art he had learned in his life to heal his wounds and recover his martial arts. Before she knew that Lu Qijin was from the Spirit Potion Valley, she thought that the Spirit Potion Valley helped Di Weiping because of the treasure map. Now, she understood that it was Di Weiping's sword art that really moved the Spirit Potion Valley. Give me the treasure map, and I will give you the recommendation token to go to the Spirit Potion Valley. Lu Qijin was still straightforward. Also, give me a copy of your sword art. If you want, we can make the deal now. Lu Qijin had heard about Di Weiping. At that time, he was still young. Before he went to challenge Di Weiping for a sword competition, something happened to him. Many people said that Di Weiping was dead. Unexpectedly, he came to the yellow sand lake. Really? Di Weiping asked in surprise. You really have the Spirit Potion Valley's recommendation token? If one had the Spirit Potion Valley's recommendation token, no matter how serious the injury was, as long as one brought it in, the people of the Spirit Potion Valley would definitely treat them until they were cured. The Spirit Potion Valley was full of miraculous people. Even if one was on his last breath, he could still come out alive. Di Weiping was tempted. However, he was a little hesitant. He was afraid that Lu Qijin was lying to him. Lu Qijin took out the recommendation token from his chest. It was a jade token that belonged to the Spirit Potion Valley. Check if this is real or not. You guys come with me to the Spirit Potion Valley. Di Weiping still didn't believe it, so he made such a request. Lu Qijin agreed. When Luo Lisin came back, she found that Lu Qijin was accompanied by a man holding a camel. What's going on? Aren't you looking for the treasure map? Luo Lisin asked. Lu Qijin said, I've already found it. Luo Lisin glanced at Di Weiping. Could it be related to this person? The group went back the way they came and passed by the inn. Luo Lisin's eyes were filled with joy as she said, let's go to the inn and buy some food to take away. Why don't we have a meal before we leave? If we rush over, it will take us a few days to reach a populated area. We should at least prepare some water. Go ahead. I've prepared plenty of food and water. Lu Qijin said ungratefully, but Luo Lisin was already used to it. Lu Qijin was already being kind by waiting for her. Luo Lisin shook her head. When did her expectations become so low? After a while, Luo Lisin came back with some buns in her hand. She knew that the treasure map was related to Di Weiping, so she decided to curry favor with him. She handed one to Di Weiping and said, this shop's buns are not bad. We won't be able to eat them when we return to the Central Plains. Try some. Thank you, Miss Luo, but I don't like buns. Luo Lisin ate happily. Di Weiping wanted to remind her, but in the end, he swallowed the words he wanted to say. If Luo Lisin didn't eat it, it wouldn't hurt to remind her. However, she had already eaten it, and it seemed that she had eaten it more than once. It was better not to remind her. It's strange. Why don't you all like buns? I think the taste is not bad. Luo Lisin was a little puzzled. Di Weiping said, maybe it's because we've lived outside the Great Wall for a long time. We all eat flatbread. Flatbread is more filling. Luo Lisin accepted his words and didn't force Di Weiping. Along the way, Di Weiping heard Luo Lisin mention the bun shop. He couldn't bear to look at her, but he restrained himself and didn't tell her the truth. About a month later, Lu Qijin brought Di Weiping to the Elixir Valley. Di Weiping took the token and was successfully accepted by the Elixir Valley. Chapter 39:10. On the same day, he told Lu Qijin the location of the treasure map. He also gave Lu Qijin the sword technique that he had written down in the past few days. On the way, he had thought it through. Those who wanted to rob him would directly threaten him. Since the other party was so generous, he thought that they would really let him enter the Spirit Potion Valley. Luo Lisin received the news from her family and left a few days ago. During their journey, something happened in the martial arts world. During the Wulin Union leader election, something big happened. It was related to Nie Yunxing. It was said that during the Wulin convention, Nie Yunxing ran to the Seven Stars sect to steal something. He didn't expect to be found out. Now, the Seven Stars sect wanted Nie Yunxing to hand over the thing. They also said that Nie Yunxing had killed a Seven Stars sect disciple. If the Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa didn't give them an explanation, the Seven Stars sect wouldn't let them go. Because of this, the Wulin Union leader election was temporarily put on hold. Nia Yunqing denied that he had stolen something from the Seven Stars sect, but during this period, no one could prove that he hadn't done it. The most important thing was that the wound on the dead disciple's body was deliberately changed. However, those who had a little bit of sword skill could see the shadow of the flowing cloud sword art. Nia Yunqing couldn't defend himself. At that time, Nia He also couldn't find any evidence to prove Nia Yunqing's innocence. The Seven Stars sect wanted Nia He to destroy Nia Yunqing's meridians. Nia He, of course, didn't want to, even if he had to lose the Wulin Union leader position. Nia Yunqing couldn't stand it anymore. He didn't want the whole villa to be implicated by him, so he destroyed his own martial arts and broke his meridians. Only then did the Seven Stars sect give up. Nia Yunqing thought that it was a conspiracy behind the scenes. He directly left the Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa that day and announced that he was no longer a member of the Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa. Ruan Qianling was also there that day. He knew that Ruan Qianling would definitely help him. Sure enough, after he said that, Ruan Qianling took action. Regarding this point, Nia Yunqing had used Ruan Qianling. The suspicion on him could not be washed away. Even if he left the Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor, it would bring him all kinds of trouble. If he made friends with Ruan Qianling, the young master of the evil Falling Flower Palace, everyone's attention would be diverted to the Falling Flower Palace. The Seven Stars sect would also involuntarily turn their attention to the Falling Flower Palace. In this way, they would be able to protect the Drifting Cloud Manor. Ruan Qianling didn't know about these twists and turns. She only felt that these righteous sects didn't care about morality at all. Back then, the person he saw was Nia Yunqing. Could it really be Nia Yunqing? Could it be someone in disguise? No one would believe the words of a demoness like her. She could only escape with Nia Yunqing under the curses of the martial artists. At present, Ruan Qianling had settled Nia Yunqing in the old place. She felt that Nia Yunqing was a little silly. Even if it was for the Drifting Cloud Villa, he should not have agreed to cripple his own meridians. You're such an idiot. Ruan Qianling could not help but curse for a long time. Now that he has lost his martial arts and his meridians are crippled, he is truly a cripple. I think the people from the Seven Stars sect still want your life. Just because they saw a face and a similar swordsmanship, they want to convict you. How unreasonable. I say, your Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor is such a big force. Can't it protect you? You are the young master of the Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor. I have an intuition that if I continue to stay in the Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor, it will bring more trouble. Since escorting the treasure map of the Seven Stars sect, I have fallen into a conspiracy. Nia Yunqing said, now, someone is going to kill the disciples of the Seven Stars sect, steal things, and pretend to be me. I guess the person behind this wants to provoke a fight between the two sects and disturb the martial arts world. Chapter 39:11. The villa is full of my relatives. My father will definitely not watch me be crippled. At that time, all the prestige will be gone, and the Drifting Cloud Villa will become the public enemy of the martial arts world. But your meridians are crippled. What are you going to do now? You can't practice martial arts anymore. Ruan Qianling was very anxious. Perhaps, I can take you to the Elixir Valley to try. It is said that the people in the Elixir Valley can revive the dead. They will definitely cure you and let you practice martial arts again. Nia Yunqing was somewhat unwilling. If he didn't do that day, he would have fallen into the other party's conspiracy and caused the two sects to fight. At that time, he didn't know what bad things would happen to the Drifting Cloud Villa. He felt that his martial arts talent was ordinary. Sacrificing himself in exchange for the safety of the Drifting Cloud Villa was worth it. Now that everyone knew that he was a cripple, perhaps he could find out who was behind the conspiracy with the help of Yuan Qianling. Yes, Nia Yunqing dared to do so because he knew that Yuan Qianling would help him. Everyone in the martial arts world knew about the 3 treasures of the Falling Flower Palace. One of them was the martial arts secret book, the Xian Pulse book, which could heal people with broken meridians. As for whether or not Nia Yunqing had thought of this, only he himself knew. Nia Yunqing's injury was almost healed. Yuan Qianling took him to the Elixir Valley for help. After waiting for half a month, there was no result. At this time, Yuan Qianling was obsessed with Nia Yunqing. It should be said that the two of them had feelings for each other. During this time, Yuan Qianling didn't know that because she helped Nia Yunqing, the Falling Flower Palace had become the public enemy of the martial arts world. People in Jianghu were saying that it was the witch of the Falling Flower Palace who bewitched Nia Yunqing. They even thought that the disappearance of the treasure map was directed by Nia Yunqing and that he cooperated with the Falling Flower Palace to kill the other disciples. It is said that after Nia Yunqing disappeared and reappeared, Yuan Qianling was by his side. I think this is really a conspiracy of the Falling Flower Palace. The treasure map is in the hands of the Falling Flower Palace. At this time, no one paid attention to the Drifting Cloud Villa and the 7 Stars sect. They all felt that the Falling Flower Palace was sinister and wanted to suppress them. Unfortunately, other than Yuan Qianling, no one from the Falling Flower Palace showed up. At the foot of the Falling Flower Palace, there was a Chimen Duanjia, so ordinary people couldn't go up. No matter what the Jianghu people said, the people of the Falling Flower Palace didn't show up. It was like punching cotton. On the other side, Tang Gua and Lu Qijin found the treasure map in Di Weiping's hands. Where is the 3rd treasure map? Lu Qijin asked. What does Miss Tang want? Why don't we wait for them to finish their sword duel, and I'll give you a 3rd of the treasure map. Are you so sure that they can't beat you? If they don't play tricks, they won't be able to beat me, Lu Qijin said. I won't give them a chance to play tricks. You're too confident. Do you know who has the 3rd treasure map? Tang Gua asked with a smile. All the disputes were just one person playing a big game of chess. Lu Qijin was curious. Where is it? Tang Guo opened the latest letter, which was news from Wulin. After reading it, she said, according to the current situation, the 3rd treasure map should be in the hands of Nia He. Nia He. Lu Qijin frowned slightly. Could it be that the failure of the escort and the murder of the 7 Stars sect's disciples were all part of Nia He's act? But he didn't expect that the 7 Stars sect released a fake treasure map. In fact, the real treasure map was escorted back to the 7 Stars sect by their disciples. The reason why they did this was that after the 7 Stars sect got the treasure map, they were attacked several times. If they transported it themselves, they wouldn't be able to transport it back to the sect and it would be robbed. Tang Gua explained with a smile. Chapter 39:12. So, they found someone from Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa to escort them. They even gave a fake treasure map just to create a diversion. I didn't expect that Nia He would steal from Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa. Not only did he not get the real treasure map, but he also lost a group of disciples and almost lost half of the mountain villa, as well as his own son's life. Lu Qijin quickly sorted out the relationship. Then, the 7 Stars sect was robbed some time ago and the disciples were killed. Was it Nia He who did it? That's right. Lu Qijin couldn't help but ask, how do you know so much? It's a secret. Lu Qijin wasn't so obsessed with the so-called secret. Why did Nia He pretend to be Nia Yunqing? isn't this harming his own son? Now the whole Jianghu is rumored to be a conspiracy of Falling Flower Palace. If Falling Flower Palace is weak, the people of Jianghu may attack them. Tang Gui analyzed, you know the relationship between Nie Yunqing and Ruan Qianling, right? Yes. Lu Qijin suddenly understood, Nie Yunqing and Ruan Qianling are familiar with each other, so he can successfully put the blame on Falling Flower Palace, right? You're not that stupid. Tang Guo commented. Lu Qijin felt strange, I used to be stupid. So stupid that you don't want to compete with me in swords. System, what kind of strange brain circuit is this? Sure enough, it's the character setting of a single dog. If it weren't for the arrival of the great host, he would be a wild dog that no one wants. For the treasure map, he simply abandoned Nie Yunqing. Lu Qijin didn't understand, I like to compete with swords, but I won't hurt the people around me for it. I heard that Lu Qijin wants to compete with someone and agrees to the other party's request. There are certain rules in Jianghu. Lu Qijin nodded, yes. Then can you tell me which requests you can't agree to? Tang Gui asked. She was very curious about these details as they weren't in the storyline. Lu Qijin, I don't think we should accept anything that we can't agree to. System, awesome, Lu Qijin. Lu Qijin, you're really awesome. You're able to stop all the plots and machinations with just one sentence. The person who said you were stupid must be the one who was stupid. Tang Gui didn't expect it to be like this. So, if you think you can't agree to something, you'd rather not agree to it than compete with him. Lu Qijin nodded. Yes. You know I'm not that stupid. Can we compete now? You can think about your request first. Tang Gui, not for the time being. Then when you've decided, I'll be waiting for you. System, strange. We won't take the third treasure map for the time being. If we take it, won't he be innocent? Tang Gui suggested, anyway, it's easy for us to take the treasure map. Why don't we wait for them to settle their grudges and then take the treasure map? Miss Tang's words make sense. I don't like to participate in Jianghu disputes. Lu Qijin thought of something. Last time when I competed with Nie, I felt that he didn't use his full strength. Then if he uses his full strength, who will win? Lu Qijin replied without hesitation, me. I have some things to do at home. Tang Gui thought that Ruan Qianling was probably going to steal the treasure of Falling Flower Palace. She had to go back and take a look. She did not intend to get involved in the muddy waters of Jianghu. However, it seemed that some people were restless and wanted to steal from Falling Flower Palace. She had to go back and take charge. I'll go with you. Lu Qijin said, what if you want to compete? Chunmei and the others were not fools. They could tell that something was wrong with Ruan Qianling. She was acting suspiciously. Under Tang Gui's deliberate neglect, Ruan Qianling finally stole the martial arts secret book. Inside it was not the previous Xian Pulse book, but the embroidery arts that Tang Gui put inside. Palace Master, are you really not going to catch the young Palace Master and discipline her? Chun Mei was worried. For a man, the young Palace Master actually stole something from the Falling Flower Palace. We can't indulge her anymore. Today, she stole the treasure of the Falling Flower Palace. To say something that the Palace Master doesn't like to hear, I don't know if she will harm the sisters of the Falling Flower Palace for that man in the future. The reason why they weren't so excited was that Tang Gui told them that the secret book had been replaced and hidden by her. The core members of the Falling Flower Palace were happy to have such a strategic Palace Master. However, Ruan Qianling's behavior made them worry about the future of the Falling Flower Palace. Chapter 39:14. Ruan Qianling was now wholeheartedly devoted to a man. She was afraid that she could not bear the responsibility of Falling Flower Palace. Do you think that by bringing her back, she can forget that man and become the same as before and not miss that man? Chun Mei and the other guardians were silent. They were afraid that it was impossible. Ling Er's temperament is somewhat similar to senior sister's. She insists on risking her life for a man. However, she is still somewhat different from senior sister. If it was senior sister, she would definitely not harm the Falling Flower Palace for a man. This is also the reason why I want to test her. If she can't pass the test and takes over Falling Flower Palace in the future, I need to choose another competent one. Hearing Tanggua's plan, Chun Mei and the other guardians were relieved. You go down the mountain in a few days and pick some good seedlings who are orphans. Bring them back and train them well. Yes, Palace Master. In the eyes of Chun Mei and the others, Ruan Qianling had already disappointed Tanggua and was planning to give up on her. That's right. For a man, she actually stole Falling Flower Palace's treasure. They could not afford such a palace master. If Ruan Qianling was in charge of Falling Flower Palace, she would be defeated sooner or later and fall in the hands of a man. According to the plot, after Ruan Qianling stole the Buddha lotus seed, the original owner found out that the Xian Veins book was also stolen. Then, she sent people to kill Nie Yunxing. She was not in a hurry. She was waiting. That day would come soon. On the other side, Ruan Qianling returned to Nie Yunxing's place with the secret book in fear. She smiled and handed the secret book to Nie Yunxing. Fool, what do you think this is? This is. Nie Yunxing was puzzled. This is a treasure of my Falling Flower Palace. Even if your meridians are broken, you can still practice it. If it weren't for the people of Falling Flower Palace, I would have forgotten about it. Ruan Qianling's face was full of pride. Hurry up and practice it. This is something I took out with great difficulty. The sooner you recover your martial arts, the sooner you can find out who is plotting behind the scenes. Nie Yunxing held the secret book and was very moved. Thinking of the attitude of Falling Flower Palace disciples towards him, this secret book was probably brought out by Ruan Qianling. The feelings in his heart, as if they had taken root and sprouted, grew. Ling thank you. What are you talking about? Hurry up and practice. All right. Nie Yunxing was practicing the embroidery arts, which was Tanggua's. In the first 1 or 2 years, there wouldn't be much of a reaction, but as time went on, the gentleness and beauty of a woman would become more apparent. Ruan Qianling only thought that she was helping Nie Yunxing. She didn't think of him. She was still proud that Su Xinyue couldn't help Nie Yunxing at all. At the same time, Di Weiping, who had entered the Spirit Potion Valley, was recovering slowly. Back in the Jianghu, there were more and more rumors about the Falling Flower Palace playing tricks. For a time, the people of the Jianghu felt that the Falling Flower Palace was evil beyond redemption. During this period of time, Chun Mei and the other protectors had been searching for seedlings everywhere. They would often encounter some Jianghu people who would provoke them. Tanggua said that they didn't need to be polite, and this caused the Falling Flower Palace to gain a bad reputation. The people of the Falling Flower Palace did not care about this. They had the support of the palace master, and their own strength was not weak. With Tanggua's attitude, they didn't care about Ruan Qianling's matter. They couldn't forgive her for stealing things from the Falling Flower Palace and giving them to a wild man. They didn't ask about the palace master's plan. They just believed in the palace master. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. In these 2 years, Tanghua had stayed in the Falling Flower Palace and didn't go down the mountain. She knew everything that happened down the mountain. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.